It is so brilliant, you won't believe it. It's so simple. It smacked me in the face this afternoon.
OK, tell us then.
I'm going to buy a bus.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mikes on Talk Sports. Beginning to look a lot like a crisis at Arsenal after Arsene Wenger's men struggled to come back from 3-0 down at Bournemouth last night. Alexis Sanchez looks like he's on the way out. Olivier Giroud seems more concerned with celebrating his scorpion kick than helping the team win. And the fans are calling for the manager's head. It must be the new year, but this time it's serious. 08717 22 3344. Coming up on the show, we're talking to Apprentice winner and Hullensian Michelle Dewberry, who wants to show us around a city of culture and impress us. And it's Porky Vision as well, the best TV review this side of the North Sea. You won't want to miss it. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and of course we are here all week. Porky Vision today, then it's Porky's post bag tomorrow, then it's the Porky quiz on Friday.
Yeah.
Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry. What is going on at Arsenal?
Yeah, very good morning to you, Mike. Well, I tell you what, whatever's going on at Arsenal, I would immediately, if I was Arsene Wenger, slap a fine on Olivier Giroud this morning for his ridiculous behaviour after he scored an equaliser in the 92nd minute when there was still 2 minutes of play left, OK? Because what the man has done, and do you know what? This relates to a quote from a man I respect very much indeed, Bob Bradley. The Bobcat Bob? No, Bob Bradley, who was the former Swansea manager, right, has lost his job, OK?
Bobcat Bob.
Let's not stop making fun of a man who's now lost his job.
That's what he's known as.
And in an exclusive interview with Oliver Kay in the Times this morning, he says, getting players to put the team ahead of themselves becomes a big challenge in the Premier League where guys earn so much. Switch to Arsenal last night, 92nd minute, Olivier Giroud equalises. He then decides to demonstrate to the world on worldwide television, because the Premier League goes all around the world, what a genius he is, by, instead of concentrating on the goal he's just scored to salvage a point for Arsenal, he decides to remind everybody about the goal I scored in the last game.
Well, never mind salvaging a point. Well, how about trying to get another goal to actually get 3 points?
You are absolutely right. There were 2 minutes of play left. Instead of him prancing around down the touchline, pushing his teammates away so he didn't actually take their heads off with his ridiculous celebration of the Scorpion goal, right?
Yeah.
He should have been right back to the centre circle, as were the earlier scorers for Arsenal. After goal 1, it went straight back to the centre. After goal 2, went straight to the centre. No. He decided, I'm going to show the world what I'm going to...
So he thought it was job done, in other words?
He thought it was job done. We've equalised. We're OK now. There were another 2 points up for grabs there, which might yet cost Arsenal the Premier League title. I'm sorry, but I thought his attitude as a professional footballer was disgraceful. Don't you know that
Well, not only did he do it after the goal was scored, but he then did it at the end of the game as well, he was walking off the pitch, as if they'd made some great, fantastic victory.
Unbelievable. Instead of hanging his head in shame because they went 3-0 down to Bournemouth, a team who are not supposed to be able to play on the same planet as the mighty Arsenal team.
Bournemouth have beaten Liverpool there as well, haven't they?
They have. They did very well indeed. But what I'm saying is they were 3-0 down at one point, and for any team to go away from home and be 3-0 down, is a pretty poor display. And yet, despite the fact they came back to 3-3, wasn't interested in improving the score after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
I think it's a disgrace. I'd like to hear from some Arsenal fans.
Well, I'd like to hear from some Arsenal fans as well, because Arsenal fans that I heard on TalkSport last night were not happy about Arsene Wenger, not happy about Olivier Giroud, and also said that they could see from the body language of Alexis Sanchez, who seems a very, very unhappy man, that he's not going to be hanging around.
Really?
The number, of course, is 08717 22 3344. Alexis Sanchez seems to have some kind of personal problem with Aaron Ramsey. He keeps berating him every time Ramsey did something wrong. He was having a go at him. He ran over to him at the end of the game, started waving his hands in his face. He was throwing his hands up in the air, the way see Ronaldo do when he's playing for Real Madrid, or when he's playing for Portugal and nobody's giving him the ball. And Alexis Sanchez was doing his very best to try and say that, look, I'm a contender here. I want to be in the Champions League. I want to win the Champions League. I want to win the Premier League. And last night he looked like a man who decided that with this club, that's never going to happen.
No, absolutely right. Arsene Wenger's quote at the final was, so we dropped 2 points, but we have to do better. Well, that's blinking obvious, isn't it? If you drop 2 points, then of course you should do better, with no disrespect to Bournemouth, because I've been there as an Everton fan and suffered defeat at the hands of Bournemouth. It's
a hard place to go and win, actually.
It is a hard place to go and win, but if Arsenal have ambitions to become the Premier League champions, you have to go to places like Bournemouth and win. And frankly, I thought it utterly absurd.
And do you know what they've done now by only getting a point there? They've actually not only made it possible for Tottenham to leapfrog over them if they could beat Chelsea tonight, which nobody really believes they can, but you never know. It's been a funny old year so far.
No.
It's been a very funny old year. I know that you've got it in for Mr. Conte at Chelsea. You don't want Chelsea to run away with it.
Excuse me, I haven't got it in at all, but on the law of averages, Chelsea have got to lose very soon.
Well, the law of averages is not the way football runs. Are you going to be all right, by the way? You look as if you're suffering from a massive cold attack. Would you like us to bring in the medics?
No. I'm going to be fine, absolutely fine. I've been dosing myself overnight.
But not only has he opened the door for Spurs, but he's also opened the door for Manchester United, who are not that far behind. Manchester United have got a couple of tough games coming up, but they can now leapfrog into the top 4 as well.
No, you're absolutely right. Arsenal on 41 points. They could have been on 43. They could have claimed third place. Instead of which, as you quite rightly say, even if Manchester United take a game off them in the future, they will leap above them. And Tottenham could tonight. Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, Tottenham are playing at home, so, I mean, anything is possible. And Chelsea would have, their 14th win in a row, which would be extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. But if Chelsea get a draw, that's fine. But Arsenal have let themselves down massively. And with Alexis Sanchez in that sort of mood, you have to wonder how much longer he's going to hang around with Arsene Wenger.
Are you reading too much into the Alexis Sanchez situation? Because you're doing a bit of philosophy stuff here.
I think there are a couple of clubs in the Premier League who would love to have Alexis Sanchez playing for them.
Like
one
who?
Would be Manchester United, right? The second one would be Manchester City. He used to play for Barcelona.
Yeah.
People think that, you wouldn't go back to Spain because he couldn't get into the Barcelona team. Yeah. He's a much better player now. Yeah. And imagine if he went to Manchester United and played up front with Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Well,
how great would that be?
I mean, there's an awful lot of ifs in football, isn't there? And the point
buts.
is... What?
And buts.
Yeah, more ifs than buts, though.
Well, it's a phrase, isn't it? Ifs and buts.
Well, I didn't use the phrase. You developed my word if into a phrase of your own making.
I prefer ifs and buts.
I'd prefer you to keep your own phrases to yourself, if you don't mind.
I was trying to help you out.
What I'm saying is there's a lot of ifs in football, and the ifs don't always turn into these. You know what I mean?
How about this from Johnny? He says, I was there last night, and Aaron Ramsey was shocking. Yeah. Not just pinpointing him as the whole team were poor, but he was so slow. And then from the other side, Ryan says this, people complain Arsenal players don't show enough passion, then give them stick for celebrating. I love Giroud's celebration.
Well, hang on, excuse me.
It's not a question of celebration.
Is that guy an Arsenal fan?
I assume he is an Arsenal fan, yes.
Well, can I just say, Mr. Arsenal fan, because you don't seem to have your name.
Ryan.
Ryan, thank you for contributing to the show.
Why are you going to start slagging him off now?
No, I'm not going to slag him off. All I'm going to say is, would you not have preferred that instead of the ridiculously over-the-top celebrations about a goal he scored in the previous game, he'd have gone back to the centre circle, kicked off and scored you another.
Yeah, well, that would have helped, and then there would have been a proper celebration. But to celebrate equalising and to celebrate getting a 3-3 draw with Bournemouth after going 3-0 down, absolutely shocking. Incredible. We want to hear from Arsenal fans on this. 08717 22 3344. Last night, all the Arsenal fans who were at the game were calling once again for Arsene Wenger's head, which usually happens around February, but this year it's happening in the first week of January.
Yeah, I mean, at 3-0 down, most teams are dead and buried, and they're out of it. So you've got to give the credit to Arsenal for coming back. And the minute they scored that first goal, you could see the whole momentum of the play change, couldn't you?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Bournemouth, because they're not used to holding 3-0 leads against teams with the track record of Arsenal, they got nervous. They started losing possession, started giving the ball away.
Yeah.
And what Arsenal should have done then is they should have concentrated on that frailty right to the very last second of the game, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. They got diverted, and it was a disgrace.
It was, absolutely. 08717 22 3344.
Give us a call, please.
Meanwhile, obviously, up in Hull, which is the city of culture, the happening city of the moment, they've lost their football manager. Mike Phelan fired last night.
Do you know
without even a shot being fired, as it were. They dropped down to the bottom because Swansea beat Crystal Palace, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Yeah.
But Mike Phelan, who you've been having a go at relentlessly for the last 2 or 3 weeks, complete and utter porky jinx time.
I'm getting the blame for this, and the only thing is...
you got rid of Bobcat Bob, now you got rid of Mike Phelan.
Well, all I was going to say is that we had a discussion about Hull the other day because of the inaccuracy of some comments put out by one of their MPs.
That's right.
The guy for Hull East.
That's right, Carl Turner.
Carl Turner, very memorable.
Who doesn't care about the whole FC manager's
Who doesn't seem to have made any comment on the fact that Hull have lost their manager, but is still bashing on about all sorts of things. Newspaper reports about Hull, which in fact were entirely accurate.
Indeed, absolutely right.
Unbelievable.
I know. We'll talk more about Hull later on. Coming up, we're going to take loads of calls, though. If you're an Arsenal fan and you want Arsene Wenger to stay or you want him to go, we want to hear from you. 08717 22 3344. A couple of people are saying that they don't agree with you. Why are Arsenal getting more stick for drawing 3-3 with Bournemouth than Liverpool were for losing 4-3 after being 3-1 up? Well, I'm not sure why that is in fact in any way comparable, because in the end, Liverpool you would have expected to be 3-1 up. You wouldn't have expected Arsenal to be 3-0 down. And if they then get back to 3-3, you'd think that they'd want to win the game. You'd think that with another minute to spare or two, they might have done it, because we've already got a couple of other people coming in. Here's one from Graham who says, look how Martial acted when he equalised. He picked up the ball, ran to the centre circle, and United scored again.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. That's what I'm saying. That,
how about this one from Tom
surely
Latcham?
That's the immediate instinct of a footballer. Wow, we've only got minutes to go and we can still score again. Get back to the centre circle.
How about this one from Tom Latcham, who's a TalkSport presenter and, of course, a celebrity Bournemouth fan. He says, Eddie Howe has a lot to answer for with some incredibly poor negative substitutions when Arsenal were on the rack and looked more like conceding a fourth or a red card. What a waste. Arsenal didn't even look that threatening. We handed it to them. Yeah. This hasn't been mentioned. A lot of Bournemouth fans actually not happy on Twitter with Eddie Howe for some reason.
Well, yeah, OK, but I would call that hindsight views because at the time Eddie Howe was sitting right on top of the world there, throwing up against Arsenal. Yes, he had to maintain the momentum and the balance of the team, but he made a decision. And, if the decision backfires on you, that's why you're a manager. You have to make decisions. Sometimes they go for you and sometimes they don't.
Ryan, who I
make
think
a decision.
An Arsenal fan, says, you can't guarantee we would have scored a winner, though, Porky. Giroud celebrating is a complete non-issue for me. Yeah, but if you're not celebrating instead of trying to get a winner, then you're definitely not going to get a winner, rather than possibly not.
Exactly. Of course you can't guarantee you've got a winner, but at 3-3, with the momentum with you, and had been for the last 15 minutes when you scored your 3 goals to, culminating with the equaliser, you had a great chance of doing something special and you threw it away.
Let's hear from some Arsenal fans. 08717 223344. We'll get the medics in for Porky. Let's talk to Paul. Paul, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, what would you like to say, Paul?
Hi. I'd just like to say about the mentality. It's all for everyone to see last night. At the end, the only one who shows that hunger and determination is Sanchez. Yeah. And he has every right to be annoyed like that, celebrating like you're in Swan Lake when you've got 4 minutes to play to get that, to get those 3 points. Yeah. And that mentality comes from the manager, because we had the chance against when we played Everton, when we played City, and when we played last night to claw back points, especially about being only a point behind Liverpool. And they blow it every time, so that tells me they are mentally weak.
Well, it seems to me that Arsene Wenger wasn't that upset that they didn't win the game. He seemed sort of relieved that they got a point.
Yeah, well, that tells you then, that filters down to the players. I mean, come on, they've got to show, this is their job, they've got to show passion, they've got to show heart. Do they not want to win anything? And the likes of Sanchez and Ozil will not stay around if they can't feel they can't win anything with Arsenal, the Premier League or the Champions League. Right. It's a joke.
Paul, what about the individual responsibility of a player? When you say weak mentality at the club, why are you assuming that it's a herd mentality, that it's a flock of sheep all following each other? What about the individuals?
Well, yeah, I agree with that point. It has to, like you said, be Sanchez has got that mentality for himself that he's a winner. Yeah. And those other players have got to look at that and think, I want to be like that. I want to strive for that. But the ultimate direction from the club comes from the top. So, you've got to blame, as much as I can blame the players, you've got to blame the management sometimes.
What about some of the Arsenal fans? What about some of the Arsenal fans, Paul, that we've heard from who have tweeted us, haven't called us like you have, but maybe they will in due course. They say that the whole celebration by Giroud is a non-issue. Why do they say that?
Because that's the divide that's splitting the club. You've got, look, don't get me wrong, Arsene Wenger has done tremendous for the club. What he's done to keep us in the top 4 consistently, over the years when we didn't have any money and the building stadium, that's great. But fans, the new fans, are only going to remember him for his last 12 years. What I'm saying is now to those fans, times are moving on. You look at Conte the other day. He's constantly online. He's constantly at his players. He's constantly directing players here, there, and those players are responding to that. With Arsenal, I feel sometimes Arsenal just sits there. Steve Bold, I don't know why he's not up there directing orders. Telling the back four, because they were shocking last night in the first half. Yeah. I'm just saying that passion, that drive, that comes down. That's going to still through to the players. But if you're just sort of think, some of the Arsenal players think, oh well, we've got a point, or I think sometimes you do have to shout. And last night, when Sanchez was getting angry with Ramsey, that's nothing different that Tony Evans would have done in his day. Rollicking players, geeing them up. Come on, you put your foot in there, you go here. And that's what Arsenal need.
But it looks like he might be the only person doing it. That is the problem. Here's one from Gabrielle, who says, the way Arsenal celebrated after the game, you'd think they'd won the Champions League final against Barcelona. Exactly. Slightly embarrassing. But, Steve Bold, there's another question. This is a guy who was meant to be a sort of a stalwart of defence, right? Yes. He's a defensive coach. Yes. They go to Bournemouth. They don't have any defence. What's he doing?
Certainly didn't for the first 3 games. I'm not sure that I can agree with the point that Steve... Yeah, that's what I said.
He said the first 3 games.
Yeah, sorry, goals.
Yeah, to pick you up on that.
the idea that he should be up on the line in the technical area shouting and screaming, you can't do that. You can't overrule your own manager. If Arsene Wenger wants to leave from that, I mean, look, it's not always...
when Ryan Giggs tried to do it with Louis van Gaal.
Yeah, that's right.
That didn't work out too well.
No, it didn't work out too well, I'm afraid. That became a bit of a mess, didn't it? But, I mean, if you look back over the years, some great managers who got great results never got up and off the bench, to be honest, and walked up and down. I'm thinking of Bob Paisley at Liverpool, the quietest man in football.
Different time, though.
Different time, certainly.
He didn't have to do anything for Liverpool because his team was so great. He didn't need to tell them to do anything because they just did everything.
Yeah, they did, actually,
and, it spoke for itself on the field. Let's talk to David, who's a Watford fan. David, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
What would you like to say, David?
Well, the first thing is, unless the rules have changed, I thought referees added on 45 seconds for goal celebrations anyway.
Right, and how long was he celebrating his goal?
I'm not sure.
Well, it was a lot longer than 45 seconds.
OK, but also, I mean, if you've ever played football, I'm sure you have, surely you're going to celebrate a goal like that when you've come from 3-0 down.
Not when you've only got 2 minutes left.
Exactly, and you need another goal.
Somebody was pointing out the Martial situation, David, for Manchester United. Yeah. He scored, immediately knew that they'd only equalised, grabs the ball out of the net, which you normally see in that situation, races back to the centre circle because he wants to score the winner.
Yeah.
But so you're telling me Giroud didn't want to score the winner?
Well, apparently not, because he didn't race back to the centre circle with the ball, which is what normally players who want to score the winner do.
Listen,
Dave, let him answer that.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
I'll have to watch the game.
Well, you haven't watched the game.
As I say, I haven't got Sky. And
David, if you haven't watched the game, mate, how can you make the point?
Excuse me, I've seen the highlight on the goal on the telly.
Right.
So I've seen the goal.
Right.
I think to have a go at a player who shows passion and enjoyment from scoring a great goal.
Yeah.
And as for Mr. Parry, I was at the Watford-Tottenham game.
Yes.
If you seriously believe the two Kane goals were better than Giroud's goal against Arsenal, Giroud's goal on Saturday, I was sitting listening to Luther Blissett post-match.
Were you? Yeah. Good lad, Luther. A friend of mine. Yeah, please go on.
Just a second. Saw that goal on the telly.
Yeah.
Didn't really notice the Giroud finish, and the build-up to the goal, the Arsenal goal, was fantastic. Let alone the finish. Trying to compare that to a goal that Kane scored.
But you
were shocking there. You got that one completely wrong.
Hang on, David. You're waving all over the place. You didn't see the game, mate. So I'll point out to you that when Sanchez scored the first goal back,
I've seen that.
And what did he do?
Because that's 3-1.
Exactly, and he's still got 20 minutes to go. So with 20 minutes to go at 3-1, Sanchez pulls the ball out the back of the net and sprints back to the centre circle, right? So if you're doing that with 20 minutes to go, shouldn't you be doing it with 2 minutes to go when you're 3-3?
Yeah, but the ref adds on time. You're celebrating the fact you've come from 3-0 down.
Oh, David, don't be ridiculous. The ref adds on time. You've got about 2 minutes left. You want to spend a minute and a half of that celebrating the pirouette of the beautiful balletic goal?
Let me ask you this, David. If it was the final of the FA Cup, what do you think would have happened?
The final... What? And he scored...
And he scores and he equalises 3-3. 2 minutes, 3 minutes left to go. What do you think he's going to do?
He'd be delighted, but...
Well, hang on. What, you mean he wouldn't try and get the winner?
You're trying to say, because he celebrated a goal, he didn't try to get the winner?
Yes, that's what I am saying.
Are you sure you're a Watford fan, David?
Yes.
Because, to be honest...
I've been going over 50 years.
Yeah, but...
50 years?
You keep going on about Olivier Giroud as if he's your favourite player.
No, he's not my favourite. I'm a neutral on the top team.
Oh, yeah? A neutral, yeah.
On the top team.
Is that because you believe you'll never join them?
Pardon?
Is that because you know your club will never join them?
Well, don't forget we finished second in 82-83.
Yes, I know, and we beat you in the cup final in 84.
82-83,
Everton now.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, but anyway, look, that's irrelevant. David, thank you very much.
Hang on, well, let me ask David one final...
Can I just say, Everton will never be in the top four either. So.
No, they will, actually, but we don't talk about that now.
I'm with you on this, David. I'm absolutely on your side with the Giroud goal, and also, not the one last night, but the bicycle kick one, or the scorpion kick, as it's wrongly called. But let me ask you seriously about Watford, because Watford are in a terrible place at the moment. Things are not going well.
No, we're absolutely not. And I wish our players had shown some of the passion Giroud showed when he scored the goal.
Do you need a new manager? Do you think you need a new manager?
Well, he stands on the touchline waving his arms around. He can't even speak English. Of course we do.
Yeah, OK. And you want your players to go around pirouetting when they've scored goals instead of getting on with the game, do you? What? Honestly.
You're missing the point.
Mate,
you're missing the point.
No. Football is an entertainment. I like to see a bit of passion.
Yeah, I like a bit of passion in winning. I don't like to see negativity when we're drawing. You know what I mean?
Who do you want as your manager, David?
Who would I have?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Sorry?
No, who would you want?
You say Ian Holloway's still in a job at QPR.
No. Kenny Jackett.
Kenny Jackett.
Kenny Jackett, OK.
It's a bizarre choice.
Well, not necessarily. He might be better than the guy they've got. David, thank you very much indeed for the call. David's a Watford fan, he says, but he loves Olivier Giroud. Loads more of your calls to come. We'll talk some more about Hull. We'll talk about Crystal Palace as well.
Yes.
There's a couple of people are pretty upset about Sam Allardyce's performance so far.
Now, get off Sam's back.
Sam Allardyce is not doing a great job. You said he would keep them up. I'm going to say he might not.
He will.
Well, we'll see. Dad says, can you imagine Mourinho, if he had been Arsenal's manager last night, he would have gone crazy.
Yeah.
Terry says, nobody has mentioned the fact that Giroud's celebration was well funny. And Vince says...
So, it's well funny. So what?
Well, I mean, he may not be an Arsenal fan. Vince says Barkley didn't grab the ball and race back after scoring a late equaliser at Hull. What do you got to say about that?
What I've got to say about that is that the whistle actually went the minute that the ball was put back into play after that goal. So there was absolutely no time to score the goals. Look, I'm not saying that you don't react emotionally to scoring a goal.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is...
So you have to, at the same time, know what the time is.
Yeah.
Have you seen the time, would have been my question.
And to prolong the celebration, because you want to let the world know just how brilliant your last goal was, not the one you just scored, but the one before, is a ridiculous show of ego and ill judgment.
We don't like ego on this show.
Ego and ill judgment, and it's treachery to your teammates.
Indeed. Let's talk to Sanchez, who's an Arsenal fan, and by which I presume to mean that he rather likes Mr. Sanchez as well. Sanchez, very good morning to you.
Good morning, the two mics. No, actually, my the name Sanchez, I'm a sound player. I play music. I used to play music in Tottenham.
Right.
And that's my DJ name, Sanchez. Long before Sanchez.
So you didn't name yourself.
Barcelona.
You didn't name yourself after the famous Chilean.
I've got some shirts from 2000. Well, probably 2004 with the Henry tie. With Sanchez on the back of my shirt. Everyone knows me.
All right. Well, let me ask you that first. So the first question, is Alexis Sanchez looking like he wants to leave Arsenal?
I think if he wants to go, let him go. Because at the end of the day, it's about a team. It's about the team. And we've had a few players coming with those kind of egos over the years, from the Invincibles up until now. I mean, the best time we've ever had was the Invincibles. And if you look at those videos from back then, right, to the team we got now, right, the players back then had character. They had passion. You know, everybody was together.
Well, we had Ray Parlour on the breakfast show this morning with Alan Brazil. I mean, you see such a difference in the team that he played in and the team that's out there now.
Exactly, yeah. Look, all the players from before the Henry time, Parlour. If you go back years, you know, I'm basically like I supported Arsenal from the 80s, from the late 79. I started my secondary school, 77. Yeah. From then, I met Chris White, right, from the Arsenal back then. Okay. He was a young kid. So I started supporting from then up until now.
Is that when you got your holistic telephone?
What?
Sorry, Sanchez. Was that when you got your holistic telephone?
Holistic telephone?
Yeah, I mean,
what is that?
A bit of an echo on this line.
Well, holistic has got nothing to do with an echo.
It does, yeah. Anyway,
holistic means in the hole.
Go on. That's what I'm talking about. It sounds like you're shouting through a hole. Yes.
Anyway, Sanchez, look, we've got a lot of calls to take. So tell us, are you in the Wenger out camp or in the Wenger stays camp?
I'm actually just decorated my house. My house is kind of hollow sounding. I'm just trying to...
I thought you might have been standing in the swimming pool before you put the water in.
Is it one of those things where he answers the last question you asked him, not the most recent one? Sanchez, we've got to hurry you up. What do you want Wenger to do? Stay or go?
I want to say the goal last night. Yes, it was. I was watching the game last night. It was 3-0 down, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to go to work on Thursday. I'm a bus driver at Tottenham, right? Good. And it's all Spurs fans, Man United fans, Arsenal fans, and one, two others, right? And I was thinking 3-0, I'm going back to a massacre of bombarding questions and insults of the team. But when Giroud, when Sanchez headed that ball, was it headed with the ball? The first goal. When the first goal went, I thought, okay, 3-1. I'm not impressed. When he came to 3-2, I thought, he got time. Yeah. Then 3-0. When the thing about Giroud's goal, when he scored that header and he looped over the goalkeeper, when he went in, he ran off. He did that scorpion pirouette, as Mike Parry says. It's like a pirouette. Yeah. I fell off my chair. I was like relieved he scored. I thought, you know what? yeah, we got time to score the winning goal, will we? But then...
Sanchez, we've got to go because we can't have this mentality of losing.
No, I know. I'm relieved he finally got to the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought he was answering the first question that we asked him after the third question we asked him. Anyway, listen, Sanchez, thanks for your call. Let's talk to Joey, who's an Arsenal fan. Joey, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Sorry to keep you waiting there. We were hoping Sanchez was going to tell us the answer to the question, but he never did. Are you Wenger in or Wenger out at this point?
Well, I'm Wenger out, but that's not based on last night's performance. I felt that he's a bit tactically unaware for some time if you compare him to the top managers around the world.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say on last night was, look, 3-0 down. Yeah. I'm the first person to say that was a tragic first-half performance, and Arsenal deserve all the abuse they're getting. But it's got to be the reason why most of the listeners out there love the game of football. I mean, 3-0 down with 20 minutes to go, and you score 3 goals, and it's got to be why we all watch it, why it's called the beautiful game, and
why didn't they go for a winner? Why didn't they go for a winner?
Well, that I don't know, and that to me is some sort of societal thing where they're all earning so much money they don't really care. If I'm honest, you go back 20 years, and they would have been sprinting for those last goals, like you said. Then again, like you guys said, Man United did it with Martial last week. I again think that's systemic of Wenger. I think he's just will do what we have to do, and then we'll defend. I
just don't understand, Joey, if you're an Arsenal fan, why the bench themselves didn't rush to the line and start berating their own players and saying, get back to the centre circle, get on with this game. Right. What are you doing, playing ballerina over on the far side of the pitch?
But the question, Joey, really is there a serious worry from the fans' point of view that Ozil and Sanchez might leave if at the end of this season, Arsenal haven't won anything or they haven't got themselves...
100%. You've only got to look at his Sanchez's attitude on the pitch last night.
Yeah.
Balls aren't coming to him at the right speed. And he's not getting the ball. He's huffing, he's puffing. And I get that a lot of that's determination, but a lot of that has also got to be the fact that he's looking around the team and thinking, we're not going to win anything here. And, if a big club comes calling you PSGs or even a money move to China, I mean, I can see them taking it. These are top players and they want to win trophies. And I don't think,
Well, he wouldn't go to... he can't have it both ways. He either wants to win trophies or he wants to go to China. He surely doesn't want to go to China.
A week.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he could win trophies in China, but nothing big.
Well, very possibly. I've got some good news for you because, it is transfer window time in January and Arsenal have apparently agreed to sign a guy called Cohen Bramall. From Hednesford Town.
Yeah. How much?
40,000 quid.
40,000 quid.
It's great news, Joe, isn't it?
Well, listen, don't...
Alexis will be looking forward to playing with him.
Hang on, don't mock it.
Exactly.
Seamus Coleman, now captain of Ireland, Joey, signed from Sligo Rovers for £60,000 and one of the outstanding players in the Premier League.
Yeah, but that was Everton, who are not trying to get into the top 4, who are not
excuse
in
me,
the Champions
we are always
League
trying to get into the top 4.
Yeah, but they're not succeeding. That's why you keep buying players from Sligo Rovers. Joey, thank you very much indeed. 08717 223344. Here's one from Thomas. They celebrated coming back from 3-0 down with 20 minutes left. Why can't they do that? They were dead and buried. Well, yeah, but they celebrated coming back from 3-0 down with 20 minutes left, with still 3 or 4 minutes left to win the game. And that's the point about it. SK says Arsenal lack top team mentality. Would Real Madrid or Barcelona celebrate an equaliser like that? So, and Jim says Giroud's celebration took 5 seconds. It was timed. Didn't affect anything. 5 seconds? I don't think so.
Well, it didn't take 5 seconds. It took more like 50 seconds. And honestly, I'm sorry, but you Arsenal fans are trying to excuse a situation in which you should be furious. Absolutely furious. I would be spitting blood and spitting nails if that had happened to my team.
Blood and nails?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're spitting those at the moment, or your
could
coughing fit
could
that you're having. Now, let's talk about Sam Allardyce just before we head off into the next section of the show, because
Sam's doing a sterling
Sam's been in charge of 3 games so far, am I right?
Yeah.
All he's done so far is complain about Harry the Hornet up at Watford. All he's done is complain about the fact that the fixture list is too busy.
Yeah.
And then the third thing he's done is he's managed to score 1 goal in 3 games.
Yeah, but he's settling
Crystal Palace fans were already up in arms.
He's settling in. Well, have you got it in for Sam Allardyce?
I haven't got it in for him.
Yes, you have.
I have not.
Yeah, I'm not having it, by the way. We're going to Crystal Palace in a couple of weeks.
That does not affect my journalistic integrity.
Doesn't affect my
You
journalistic...
have no journalistic integrity.
It does not affect my journalistic integrity.
You got none.
All I'm saying is that you cannot expect a man to turn water into wine overnight, which is metaphorically what he's being asked to do at Crystal Palace.
Water into wine. Is that what you were doing last night?
You can have the water.
Here's one here. It says, I feel sorry for Sanchez.
Sinatra song.
Alex says this. I feel sorry for Sanchez. Their standout player, the only one who showed a winning mentality.
Yes,
Sanchez will do what all great Arsenal players do, leave them and win trophies elsewhere.
Well, you see, that's a very harsh scenario to be coming into.
We'll keep taking your calls. We've got to talk about Mike Phelan as well. Hull are looking for a new manager. Maybe Bobcat Barb could make a return.
And by the way, the shortage of tiles. I need to alert you to this.
Shortage of tiles?
Shortage of tiles.
What sort of tiles?
Roof tiles. tiles.
Roof tiles?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
We'll talk about that.
The national shortage. There's going to be great gaps in the holes of a lot of houses being built at the moment. We've
Really?
run out of tiles.
Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Brent says, I think Caller Sanchez has the same amount of surplus time as Giroud. And then Spencer says, do not speak to the bus driver.
No, don't speak to the bus driver.
Imagine if you had to ask him a question.
I felt...
it would take you about 25 minutes to get an answer.
I felt very sorry for that bus driver because the price of season
bus
ticket...
driver?
The bus driver we spoke to.
What? Alexis?
Yeah.
Sanchez?
No. The bus driver who phoned in. The man who had the empty house. Sanchez. That's
Why do you feel sorry for him?
Well, because if you're a bus driver and you're an Arsenal fan, they have very expensive season tickets, and it means that you have to prioritise your net income in order to get yourself a season ticket at the Emirates. Well, I'm talking about it's expensive.
Yeah, well, of course it's expensive.
Now,
how about this one? Eddie says, I don't think Porky was spitting nails when Everton lost 5-0 to Chelsea. And also, Daniel says, Everton's Ashley Williams used to play for Hednesford Town.
Yes, he did, actually.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Did you know that?
I know now, because somebody just told me.
Yes.
We didn't have break.
You didn't
there.
know that before.
Right.
Lee says, why are Arsenal fans crying? Try being a Newcastle fan.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a ropey old second half of the season, that is. Now, why are you having a go at me? Because I've indicated to the nation that we have another shortage.
I'm not having a go at you, but
goods.
I mean, most people don't care if there's a shortage of tiles.
Well, it should.
Because why? Because, I mean, a number of people in this listening to this show who buy tiles,
yes,
right, for their own house,
yes,
not for a living, because they're actually building with tiles.
Yeah, hang on.
Are minimal.
No, wouldn't
Absolutely
you agree
minimal.
that almost everybody listening, the millions of listeners we have out there, all live in houses or live in property, right?
Well, you'd like to think so.
And every property has...
Many of them are renting them from you, in fact, because you own so many of them.
Excuse me, every property has a roof on it, and every roof is made of tiles.
Most of them do.
Right? Now, a property...
Are you talking about the sort of reddish tiles? Or what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about the reddish tiles. In fact, funny you should say that, because a property I'm associated with, we've had to stop...
What do you mean you're associated with?
Well, that's all I can say. You know, I have a property portfolio, as you know.
What do you mean you own it?
I'm not saying that, but I mean, you know...
What are you saying?
Well, if you have a flat, sometimes in a block of flats, there's only one roof on it, and then it's quite complicated, the ownership of the roof. You see what I mean?
Well, for example, the person who lives below me in the block of flats in which I live,
yes,
they do not have tiles on their roof. They don't have a roof.
No.
I am their roof.
Yeah, but there is a roof above you, and that roof covers the whole of the building to keep it safe.
Yeah.
Now then, the problem is that some repair work has been taking place.
Where is this place you've got?
It's coastal.
Coastal? What, so is it in Gosport?
Well, it could be round there somewhere, but I don't want to get too specific.
Well, how many places do you own down there?
Hang on, excuse me. What I want to know is there anybody out there, please, who's got 270 English dark red roof tiles?
270?
Yeah, please. Marley Edgemere.
I bet you there'll be people out there who can supply them for you right away.
I'm seriously, I'm looking for Marley Edgemere, right?
You can't just use this as some kind of, personal, tile portfolio
I
business.
want to... Listen, hang on, excuse me. It's not a property portfolio, but I want to know, have they been discontinued? And if so, I've got a real problem because I'm going to have to go back to people and tell them to...
Well, why can't you ask the tile suppliers?
Because they can't get any until May.
May?
Yeah, May.
Is this because of the government's programme to build all these new houses and they've just bought them all up?
I've no idea. They make all sorts of excuses. It's Brexit. It's...
Brexit's got nothing to do with tiles.
It's a turn down in building programmes. I mean, a lot of social housing's going up. Have the government pulled back on it? I don't know. But, I mean, look, the problem is, I know it sounds a bit desperate, but
it does sound desperate.
It is desperate.
It's rather shabby, actually, for you to try and bring your business affairs onto the radio.
Hang on.
It's very shabby.
If you've got a hole in your roof, it is desperate.
Well, why didn't you fix it when the sun was shining, like they used to say in Downing Street?
Oh, yeah. Well,
they didn't fix the roof when the sun was shining.
No, actually.
Who are you?
No, Gordon Brown actually said, and we did fix the roof when the sun was shining.
But he didn't use the right tiles.
No, he used straw, mate, and there's still holes in that roof, and to this day. But anyway, look, I just thought I alerted the nation to the fact that the Ferrero Rocher had gone into steep decline 2 years ago.
Yeah, that wasn't true.
I alerted the nation to the fact that this...
You said there was going to be a massive influx of daddy long legs, which never happened. You said there was going to be a shortage of cream at Christmas. That never happened.
It did.
No, it didn't.
It did. I got reports about it.
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
I got reports about it. Anyway.
You're probably being told this, right, by somebody, because you're such a useless businessman, right?
Yeah.
This is what's going to be happening, right? Your people who supply you with the tiles are telling you, oh, no, they're all sold out. And then they'll come to you next week and say, great news, Mike, we found a new stack of tiles. Unfortunately, they're at £10 extra each. And you'll go, oh, great.
Hang on.
If they're £10 extra each, they must be better, so I better buy a truckload of them.
You're accusing me
You're the easiest guy in the world to mug off.
You're accusing me of self-interest.
I'm accusing you of being a mug.
I don't even live in this property. I'm doing this for other people. I want other people
there are things called health and safety officers who go, and you can't have people living in homes which don't have roofs.
I don't know. I can't do anything good in your eyes. That's the problem. And yet, my intentions are always noble and honourable, and I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
You get on my nerves,
I really don't think so. By the way, have you seen the New York Times has now done a big piece on my Titanic story as of yesterday? They must have been listening to the show.
Excuse me, it wasn't your Titanic story.
Must have been
it was a story which came out in my historical journal first off.
No, it didn't.
It did, and
you didn't alert me to it.
Of course I did.
Absolute
rubbish. I alerted it to you a week ago, and it's still a load of rubbish.
Here's the headline in the New York Times, world famous newspaper. A coal fire in the Titanic's hull may have sealed the ship's fate before it hit the iceberg.
May.
How about that?
May.
Yeah, well, that's all I said it was.
Yeah,
I said it was a possibility.
The one thing that I didn't discuss with you yesterday is that everybody talks about an iceberg as though it's made of, like, diamond and steel, i.e.
Well, it's very hard.
The hardest substance on Earth.
Well, it is very hard.
It's not harder than steel.
Yes, it is.
Even steel that's been warmed by a small fire on the other side of it.
Well, here is, you in fact just played into my hands there.
Oh, yeah, really?
You complete numpty. Yeah. Because what you've just alerted me to is the fact that normally, had the steel been properly hard, not in fact weakened by fire.
It wasn't weakened by fire.
Well, then it wouldn't have been breached.
No.
Because the iceberg breached it, that proves that it must have been weakened.
No, it wasn't. No, it doesn't.
See, your logic is nowhere near solid.
No. I have researched this since I spoke to you yesterday. The reason...
Well, you should have researched it yesterday.
No, I couldn't, because it was you on the show, and I didn't realise that you were going to bring it up as a national issue. But the reason that the Titanic was holed below the water was because... It wasn't because...
I don't want to discuss it again.
It wasn't because the iceberg ripped a sliced hole in the side of it. What it did is it pulled off the panels because the rivets weren't properly in place.
How about this?
And it was the rivets that came away.
Yeah. Dale says this shameful Porky, the Del boy of Chester. He always wants things on the cheap. Fordy says this: Porky, shortage of cream, sprouts, gin didn't happen. What else is he going to advertise for free?
What do you mean?
However,
what are you on about?
There is some salvation for you from John. Yeah. He says, I'm a roofer in Leicester, and I can confirm there's a 2-month waiting list for tiles.
Oh,
great work,
thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, 2 months, right? We're in January.
Yeah.
That means you should be able to get them in March.
Yeah, well,
You said you'd be told you can't get them till May.
Well, I'm not sure he said March or May, but I mean, whatever he told me.
Jane says this: Porky should only worry if there's a shortage of Lemsip and Benylin.
Well, at the moment, that's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah. You haven't been back on the Benylin, have you?
No, I haven't been back on the Benylin.
Because you've been warned off that, You're not supposed to touch that stuff.
I don't touch it ever.
Well, not since that terrible year in London.
Would you like to offer a public apology now to the fact that you said that I got my facts wrong? I'm going to read this again. I've got it. It's the one from John. I'm a roofer in Leicester and can confirm there's a 2-month waiting list for tiles. Woo, woo,
well,
woo.
as ever, you've exaggerated it, haven't you? Because you said that there was no tiles available till May.
Well, I bet you it won't be till May now, because now we'll rush and get them in March. Yeah.
Brent says this: Sam Allardyce this weekend also said whoever created the fixture list should be sacked.
I know.
He's hardly come back contrite, has he?
Well, it's a
good point, that.
It's a bit harsh, isn't that? But
yeah.
it was a sense of
Crystal Palace fans, actually, because Crystal Palace fans, I think, are not happy. One, with the way that Sam Allardyce is making them play,
right,
and 2, with the results, and 3, with the lack of goals,
and 4,
the
fact that you're going there in 2 weeks' time.
Well,
they don't want your fat mug in their stadium.
Actually, they don't mind me going there. It's you they object to. There's only one of us who's ever been thrown out of Selhurst Park, I think you'll find, and that is not me.
I was never thrown out.
You've never been thrown out of Selhurst Park?
Let's just...
Well, you're not thrown out by Simon Jordan's henchmen?
We had a discussion before we
left.
They
asked you to leave, didn't they?
Well, I was a guest there anyway, so I could leave when I wanted. Now, what I was going to say is, quite seriously for a moment, Oliver Kay in the Times has written a very nice, insightful piece on Bob Bradley after talking to him.
Yeah, he did a big interview with Sports Illustrated as well, which I read last night.
OK, and the expression that Oliver picked up on was all in.
Yes.
The American expression. Bob Bradley believes in going all in, and then, of course, had to ask him what is all in. You see what I mean?
Yeah, and what is all in?
Well, it's another Americanism, isn't it? And it was because of the Americanisms. But Bob did say, by the way, he did reveal in this, he said, I can tell you for sure, nobody ever called me Ronald Reagan in the dressing room.
Well, they're not to his face, they didn't.
No, well, he says they didn't. So.
Well, he didn't know they were, though. But
I think Bob got a lot of stick unfairly.
Yeah, he got most of it from you. I'll tell you what he said to Sports Illustrated. He says, I don't think after a controversial penalty, when you're discussing it after the game, and then you call it a PK, if that's the biggest slip-up that I had during my tenure, I think anyone that focuses on that is way off base.
Way off base and has not gone all in.
So,
poor old Bob.
I'd like to see him back, though. I want to see... I'm going to start a campaign. I want a campaign started right now to get Bobcat Bob into Hull.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. I do. Honestly, I mean, listen, I appreciate you bringing a bit of brevity to the show.
It's not brevity. But I mean, do you mean levity?
Yeah, levity.
Brevity is something completely different.
I know. Levity
something you
brevity.
Don't suffer from.
Levity and brevity.
Have you ever suffered from brevity?
I've suffered from a lot of things during the course of my life, but brevity isn't one of them. No. What I'm saying is that he can't work in the Premier League again because he's become a figure of fun.
Why not?
He should go back to America and pursue a career in football as it's developing. Yes, that's right, in America. Yeah, he should. That's what he should do, without a shadow of a doubt.
How about this from...
He can't make it in this country
Lee,
again,
the West Brom fan. I think you're missing the point on the Arsenal game and Wenger. It's time for him to go because they should never be going 3-0 down to Bournemouth, let alone talking about the equaliser that rescued a point. I think that's a very good point.
I don't agree with that. Do you remember the famous day when Manchester United went to White Hart Lane? They were 3-0 down at half-time.
Yeah.
And Sir Alex Ferguson just, gave him the old hairdryer treatment at half-time. It was the...
Well, that's... Yeah.
It was the famous Beckham-Scholes team.
Yeah.
They won 5-3. So you can. I mean, United got beaten, didn't they, at Southampton 6-1 on the day when...
Well, lots of people get beaten.
When he said that they had the shirts on that couldn't distinguish the shirts from the grass.
The difference between all of these stories about other clubs is that every year, around about this time, to be fair, this is slightly earlier than normal, usually February time, Arsenal fans start calling for Arsene Wenger's head. And then...
It's usually in November.
Well, no, normally...
Because they usually have a poor November.
Yeah, but it comes, once they start back with the Champions League and then they get knocked out of the Champions League, as they always do, then, the unrest starts to appear and then maybe they win the FA Cup and then that gives them a bit more respite. But basically, it happens every year. And every year, surely he gets closer and closer to the point at which they're going to say, enough is enough.
Yes.
Malcolm says this, I can't believe Mike Parry's using the show to get cheap tiles for his slum landlord business.
That's a bit harsh.
Danny says, you're expecting somebody to ring up now and say, don't worry, Mike, I'm a big fan of yours.
How dare
Here's 300 free tiles. I've nicked them from the guy next door.
How dare you?
And you would accept them as well, wouldn't you?
How dare you accuse me of that? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to warn people of a national shortage because I care for our millions of listeners and I don't want them living
Danny says this.
I don't want them living in homes with holes in their roofs.
Danny says this. I've heard Porky rents out his garden sheds for people to live in. He's a slum landlord and his hero is Nicholas van Hoogstraten.
Oh, that's very cruel. Yeah. Honestly, that's very harsh.
A building I'm associated with. I've heard anything so ridiculous in my life.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to Two Mikes on Talk Sport. Coming up in this hour, we're going to talk to Michelle Dewberry, the former winner of The Apprentice, of course, Hallensian too. She wants to prove to us that the City of Culture is in fact a mighty fine place, and in fact she's invited us up there to show us around show us the sights and all that kind of thing, and maybe spend a night up there, we don't know.
Well, hang on, can I just correct it?
Yeah.
We have not been invited to spend a night in Hull with Michelle. We have been invited to spend an evening with Michelle looking at the wonders of Hull, OK?
You're going to spend the night.
Anyway, listen, I've got a quick...
Don't worry about that. Listen, we haven't finished the opener yet, so you can get into that in a minute, right? Because we're also going to be talking about Chelsea-Tottenham, which is coming up, Tottenham-Chelsea, rather, a little bit later on. And, of course, we'll be talking about Mike Phelan and how he got sacked and why he got sacked and who's coming in next.
Well, that's all part of the whole story, the whole legacy. Right now, I've had one from Lyle. He says, Porky, good news for you. I have 270 spare tiles. You can have them free of charge. The only thing is they're made of planks. I think you're having a go at me there.
Yeah, they are. And how about this one from Ryan? He says, Porky's aiming his roof tile shortage sob story directly at show sponsors Wix so they can find a new roof for his place.
Do you know that never even occurred to me? Never even occurred to me.
You're an absolute snake.
Do you think that would even occur to me?
Yeah, of course it would.
Talking about roof tiles, right? This is a great story that I want to tell you.
We're not going to talk about roof tiles anymore, are we?
Well, sort of, because I'm in a dilemma here, right? Now, there's a story reported this morning. A chap called Oliver Smith, who's a van driver, has blasted his snobby neighbours in this development where he wants to buy a house for a not unsubstantial £313,000, right? Because there is
£313,000?
Yeah, for a house, yeah.
Where is this house?
This house is somewhere in, let me see, Colchester, Essex.
Very nice.
Very nice part of town.
A Roman city.
Colchester is the oldest city in England.
It's a Roman city.
And it's the oldest city in England.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right on both scores.
Yeah.
There's a plaque there as you go in. Colchester, the oldest city in England.
Yeah.
Now, it's a fine place. I love it because, of course, I have some property out in Ipswich and I often go down the old A14
is that right?
on the way.
When was the last time you were there? Colchester.
Colchester, about a year ago, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I went to stay in a hotel down there. It was a sort of do I was at.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, excuse me, the point of the story is...
Yeah, what is the point of the story?
This young man is a real go-ahead fella. You know, he's got his own business, and a part of having his own business means he has a Ford Transit, OK?
Yeah.
Now...
Is it one of those long ones?
Well, I don't know, really. There's a lot of Ford Transits.
There's two versions, aren't there?
Yeah, but we basically know the shape of a Ford Transit. Now... He goes to buy this house only to find that there is a covenant on the lease and the deeds of his house.
Is it in like one of these sort of developed cul-de-sac type places?
It's a very nice new development. It's all...
No, but you know how they've all got
yes, I know what you mean.
one spot for one car, another spot for another car. People don't really park on the street.
Absolutely. It's new red brick stuff and all that kind of stuff, and there's a little drive up to your garage. Excuse me, plenty of tiles, yeah.
It's like an oxygen mask.
No. But the covenant, what the covenant says is that they won't allow vans to be parked on the road in this particular development,
right? Because
they're unsightly. Now,
what happens when somebody comes to fix up the place? What happens when somebody, needs some work done? Are they not allowed to park their vans there?
Of course they are, but that's on a temporary basis. Right. The point is they will not allow ownership of vans on that development to be parked permanently in the street or even on the driveway, okay?
Right.
It says here, engineer's dream of buying his ideal home in tatters, developers banned him from parking his work van there.
Well, the thing is, in the end, right, if you have a van that you use for your work purposes, is there not a rule by the taxman that says you're not supposed to bring it home?
Well, if you're self-employed, you can.
Really?
But if you're self-employed, you have to, I think, declare to the taxman that your place of work is your home. You see what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's the difficult part, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure we'll have people listening who can tell us about this, but if you're running a business out of a van, basically, without necessarily having a massive office that you use, and you have to have the van at home as well, because that's the only place you can have it, then surely they can make an exception in this cul-de-sac of snobs.
No, they can't, because you can't park it anywhere on the development. What the easement says is, he says you can't have any van, any mobile homes, anything like that, caravans. They've told Oliver it'll be enforced. It bars commercial vehicles, caravans, mobile homes, camper vans and boats from parking on or near the property. Now, I have sympathy with the development because...
because you're a landlord and so therefore you like to keep your things neat, don't you?
Right. I had a friend who lived in a London suburb a few years ago and it was a lady friend and she had lived in this house for years.
And lady friend who?
A lady friend.
When was this?
Oh, a few years back when I was working...
What was her name?
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't.
Well, it does, because you may not have mentioned it before.
No, it doesn't.
People are fascinated by your former encounters.
No. What I'm saying is she had lived in the same house for years and, she had, with a real passion in her heart, built this beautiful house, type thing, and changed everything, changed the garden, changed the upstairs, and, all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, new neighbours moved in, and they brought this huge furniture van with them, because that was their business, parked it in their driveway, it cut all the light out of her house, and it looked horrible and unseemly, and it meant that every time...
Well, what are they supposed to do with it?
Well, this is the whole point. Now, I personally had a problem there. I have a house in a London suburb, well, it's on the edge of Surrey, and when I lived there briefly... the chap next door...
You've still got the house?
I've still got the house.
Well, who owns it? Who lives in it now?
A tenant.
Well, you rent that one out as well? How many houses have you got?
Well, hang on. Look, I'm just using this as an example.
No. I mean, this is a ridiculous tale of complete and utter petty larceny from you.
No, it's not. No, what happened was the chap who lived 2 doors away, that was beyond the prison governor woman who was bringing up all her mates home at 2 in the morning.
Place.
No, that one's still rented out. Now, what I was going to say to you is
There's a second one in Surrey, then?
There's a second one, yeah, absolutely. Why
do you even work?
No, hang on, listen. What happened was, the chap I'm talking about suddenly found enough money to buy himself a cherry picker, and I was very pleased for him, because his new business was going to be replacing light bulbs.
What, instead of removals?
Yes, that's right, yeah, replacing light bulbs.
How did you go from removal business to cherry picking?
I don't know. Removing the light bulbs in the lampposts of the lamps in the whole of the county of Surrey.
Yeah.
Now, this was a big vehicle, a big cherry picker like that to go around.
Well, they are big.
Yeah. Now, he couldn't park on his driveway, so he parked on the road in front of my house.
Yeah.
It took all the light out of my kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an eyesore
also,
of the worst.
it's not a very nice thing to look out at,
Well, exactly. It was horrible eyesore. But only that, if anybody ever came to visit you, they wondered why this huge commercial vehicle was parked right outside your front gate.
Presumably they just thought it was another one of your businesses on the side.
No, not at all. And so I can see the problem. But having said that, if the government are encouraging people to stand on their own 2 feet, start their own businesses, and the number of small businesses goes up every quarter in this country, then we've got to make some compromise to allow those people who are ambitious and buy themselves a new home to be able to put their commercial vehicles nearby.
Yes.
So we've got to change the planning laws.
Yeah, well, I mean, they call it zoning in America, don't they?
Yes.
Because there are certain things that you're not allowed to do. Like,
exactly.
You can't put up signs, you can't, if it's a residential area, you can't run a business from it and all of that.
No.
But it's very easy to sort out, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. But what they need to do is they need to find an area within this new estate in Colchester and make it for commercial vehicles only. Do you see what I mean?
But see, what you're missing here is the actual point of why they're doing this, right? The real reason they're doing it is because, yes, they are snobs. They don't want any tradesmen living there.
No, it's not true.
That's what they don't want.
It's not true, because everybody has to work.
that's exactly what they're doing.
And I don't want to stop anybody working.
But these particular laws are stopping ordinary men and women who have businesses which involve them driving around in things other than cars.
Yes.
Right? Like taxis even as well, that some people object to.
Black taxis are banned as well, actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, that is effectively, what you might call, a social cleansing, which is what a phrase that pops up from time to time.
The point is, what you're saying is...
They only want jumped-up lawyers and solicitors.
I was going to say, you think that they would just want
workers,
advertising executives, estate agents, insurance brokers and all that in this go. But I don't agree with that.
Discrimination against white van man,
I think the working man should be allowed to... I mean, you've got to keep up the appearances, because the value of your property can depreciate enormously if some guy's got his transit van parked next to you. Now, I mean...
So you're one of these snobs, that's the trouble.
I'm not one of these snobs.
There you are.
But for instance, my place down in Gosport, right? I'm glad to say that we have an easement on
It's a bit of a dump around there, isn't it?
It's not
I mean, the building's quite nice, but all around it is a dump.
No, not at all, not at all. Gosport's a fine place, and
no, I'm talking about. I've been down there. I've seen the road. The road is it's a dump.
No, it's not. It's not, and I will not accept that. Now, one of the easements we have on the agreements there, because they're leasehold properties, you do not put your wet towels or sheets or anything on the railings on the balcony. You just don't do it.
Right.
If you do, we go and take them and throw them away. You see what I mean?
Well, because, they'd blow away, wouldn't they? It's a bit windy.
Well, they would, actually.
How about that old heap of a jag that you used to leave in the wrong space so somebody didn't park there?
No, it's in very good condition.
No,
that
it wasn't.
It
was an old heap.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a heap, honestly. It was. I was once told that it was the finest specimen of a jag for that particular year.
By whom?
By a guy who knew a lot about cars.
Pew.
But you understand what I'm saying? You have to have certain rules to protect the value of your property.
The time, by the way.
Don't worry about the time, because this is very important.
I mean, all you want to do on this show is rave on about your property portfolio.
No.
The fact that there's a shortage of tiles, so you can't build something and make even more money.
Not at all. Millions of people will understand what I'm saying.
Now, you're keeping Michelle waiting, by the way, too. Michelle Dewberry wants to
I want to hear from Michelle.
Yeah, stop rabbiting on about your property portfolio. You're just trying to impress her, aren't you?
No, I'm not. What I'm trying to tell you is that I bet you Michelle is very aware of this sort of problem, and she would have a view on it herself.
Yeah.
Because I bet Michelle lives in a swanky house, and she doesn't want some guy with a Ford Transit parked on his driveway next door. Not that there's anything wrong with people with Ford Transits.
She's not a snob like you.
It's just that aesthetically...
Just be quiet for a minute,
aesthetically, we have to protect them.
It's not aesthetically, it's aesthetically. Stedford is something else in Wales. This is Talk Sport. Michelle Dewberry coming up next.
Don't worry about it.
And as Roy says, it looks like Porky's portfolio now, property-wise, must rival Robbie Fowler's. He's got more tenants than half the councils in Scotland.
No, don't be ridiculous. I'm trying to...
Chris says Porky coining it from his property empire and fishing for free tiles.
No.
Hashtag man of the people.
No, I'm trying to solve problems and make people aware of the social, issues that surround living and property ownership. That's all.
Yes, well...
Don't worry about that.
Anyway, listen, I'm delighted to tell you that we've got somebody on to bring a touch of class to the show. It is, of course, the former Apprentice winner, Michelle Dewberry, who happens to be a Hullensian.
Indeed.
As you tell me that people from Hull should be called.
Yep.
She got in touch yesterday to say that she was appalled by some of the things you've been coming out with about their fair city of Hull.
No, what you've been coming out with.
No. I think you'll find you're the one that's quoted in the Hull Daily Mail today saying that there's more culture in the jungle in Calais than there is in Hull.
Yeah,
so let's say a very good morning to Michelle and find out what she's got to say about that. Michelle, very good morning to you.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you doing?
Very well indeed. Thank you for joining us. Can I just point out that you and I were, in fact, conversing on social networking last night until my colleague here decided, I think I'll get involved in this with that lovely young lady, Michelle Dewberry. So, just beware. Just beware, Michelle. Just beware. Find out what his motives are all about.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, Now, Michelle, you've come on...
Let me tell you two something. Right now, I'm sitting having a coffee overlooking the marina and the River Humber at the moment in Hull, and there's definitely more culture here than in the Calais jungle, so you're wrong with that.
Right,
does it remind you a bit of Portobellouse?
Does it remind me of Portsmouth? No, it's a bit classier than that.
That's a very good answer. Portobellouse is a real sleazeball area, I have to say. as Michelle obviously knows.
Does it remind you of Tower Hamlets?
It reminds me of nothing. It's unique.
Right,
it's
unique. Yeah. What's unique about it then?
Now, look, you're not going to sit here. Are you not going to sit here and keep having a go at Hull, are you?
No, of course I'm not. I'm offering the opportunity for Michelle, who is a very well-known entrepreneur, who can express herself very well. What are the attractions, what are the beauties of your home city of Hull?
There's lots and lots. First of all, there's lots of art galleries. There's a fish walk. There's one of the smallest windows in the UK that I used to come to when I was a little girl and look at it. There's a beautiful marina. There's loads of stuff going on, like lots of different events and theatres. And as I said to you two, I'm more than willing to do a road trip to Hull and back. And you can come
you actually
here
want to drive up there with us?
Yeah, we'll come to Hull. I'll show you the site. I'll take you out. And it'll be a right good day for you all.
Well, you don't want to go in Porky's old banger. You'd have to come in my car because it's a far more comfortable ride.
Excuse me, Michelle.
Got the most decent car.
Yeah, well, mine's a Jaguar F-Pace. I just bought it.
Yeah, and mine is the top of the range, two-door Merc fastback.
No, it's not.
Michelle.
No, it's an old Mercedes. It's rubbish.
No, it's not. It's 1 year old.
But listen, I mean, seriously though, Michelle. I mean, it was a very kind offer of yours. But I mean, what exactly will we do all day?
Yes.
I mean, because Porky basically is a man of very little taste. All he wants to do every day is go to Wetherspoons, have fish and chips, and have about 8 pints of lager.
Well, that's all right, because we've got some Wetherspoons, so we can accommodate that.
Yeah.
We've got lots of other bars as well.
What's the best restaurant? I'm more of a sort of a gourmand, I would say. So what's the best restaurant you could take us to?
Oh, there's loads. There's one 1884. That's a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
There's lots of nice pubs if you're into pub grub. There's a nice one called the Minerva that I was at the other day. There's loads of them.
Yeah,
We're not short on pubs. Don't worry about that.
See, one of the things that I was first sort of taken by, or rather shocked by, when I last went to Hull, was I was in a pub, funnily enough, and I was taking somebody up there.
Funny enough, were you?
Yeah, I was
every
in a
other
pub.
day of your life.
No, that's you, Porky. That's you.
Go on, get on.
The point is that we actually I was waiting for the newspapers in those days. We were taking a woman who'd been a victim of crime up there because a Hull restaurant owner had actually offered to do a charity night and raise a load of money for her, which was very nice. But we were sitting in this pub, and somebody had a pizza which had got chips on it. And I know that might sound completely...
A pizza with chips on it?
Pizza with chips on it. And I thought, I've never seen this anywhere in the world, and it's still the only place I've ever seen it in Hull.
I've never seen a pizza with chips on it in my life.
Really?
But that's what people like as their pizza topping, and who am I to judge?
Well, indeed.
Absolutely. Now, Michelle, I want to get serious for a minute. Obviously, you're a lifelong Hullensian, and a very proud one. Did the demise of the fishing industries, when we had to reorganise everything due to our European connection,
what sort of question is this?
Did that lead to a bit of a depression in Hull, a bit of a kickback on the economy?
Yeah, I mean, fishing was one of our primary industries, wasn't it? So I think when that goes, like any industry in any city, of course it impacts things. And what you've got to do is think about where we're going to create new employment. So, for example, we've got things like Siemens, who are doing a lot of, green stuff at the moment. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the River Humber. But you've got to constantly be thinking about how do we create new employment opportunities?
Yes.
How do we inspire the people here? Because ultimately, we live in a technological age, don't we? So you can sit in your bedroom in Hull, trading with anyone all over the world using technology.
Well, you
Absolutely.
can. But can you tell me why over the course of the last few days? Because actually, I've not said anything bad about Hull. All I said was I thought it was a waste of taxpayers' money to spend on making this place the city of culture. Because it's not, it's not against Hull.
See,
as far
that's
as I'm
very
concerned.
discriminatory.
Excuse me. It's not against Hull particularly. I just don't think they should do it for anybody. And of course, for some reason, I've been subjected to all kinds of, slings and arrows, including being called a prat by the local MP. His name is Carl. No, the local MP from
Hull
East, who calls himself from the Socialist Republic of Hull. Whose name is Carl Turner.
And he's called you a prat, did he?
He called me a prat on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you for why. It's because for many, many, many years, Hull is constantly called like the worst place, the most rubbish place. It's called all these things. And it's often without reason. So if you go around and if you actually look at the negative press that Hull gets, most people are offering up that press, have never even been to the city, and yet they jump on this bandwagon of negativity because they think it's zeitgeisty to knock it, or they think it's funny. So people are like, they've had enough of it, really. It's gone on for years and years and years.
Yep.
And now there is an opportunity for the city to shine. So whether you agree with it or not, the City of Culture exists and it does good things for the cities involved. It's Hull's turn, and people are rightly proud of it. So when someone comes along and knocks it, and particularly if they haven't been, it upsets people. So my approach to it is I don't wander around calling people names. I'll do like what I did with you two and say, look, if you think it's a bit of a shoddy place, come with me, I'll take you out and I'll show you what it's like, and hopefully it will change your opinion.
Well, that's absolutely smashing. Now, tell me this, Michelle, do you have business interests in Hull? Are you beating the drum for the commercial possibilities there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my goals for 2017 is to set up a recruitment business and have the back office of it located in Hull. And
really?
I'd love to create employment opportunities in the city. We came last year, we did a big employment show in Hull where we brought all of the different employers together with job seekers, matching the two together. And I think, as I've already said, creating employment opportunities and, crucially, inspiring people to create their own employment opportunities.
Exactly.
Well, essential.
We need inspiration.
There's already one employment opportunity in Hull. That's for the Hull City Football Club because they just fired Mike Phelan as the manager. So it's already working, this City of Culture thing.
It certainly is.
Well, there you go. Maybe who's going to be the next manager? Who knows? Maybe you should get your names down.
Well, I mean, to be honest...
We couldn't do a worse job than the last one.
Well, that's very hard on Mike Phelan. I think the problem is that, I mean, one of the things, and you'll hear this a lot from people up there, I'm sure, who are into football, is that the owners, who I think have done a lot of good for the football club... because
it's been a bit confused.
They put a lot of money into it,
a bit confused lately.
Now people are against them and they want to force them out and all of that. But it's not happy times if you're a football fan up there, is it?
No, and I mean, my brother's avid Hull City fans, Oh, yeah, of course, but we've been brought up on City, always have been.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of strong emotions in the city about the club at the moment. Not least, if you speak to a lot of people are upset about how upset it is for the children to actually even go and see the players when they've supported the club their entire life. It's gone into the Premiership and become so expensive for children to go and see it, which I personally think is a shame.
Well, of course, it's a shame.
Who knows what happened?
Yeah. Do you still live in Hull, Michelle? Do you still have a place up there, a pied de terre or whatever? Yeah.
Why do you want to know that?
Well, because I think it's great.
Why do you want to know that?
Because I think it's great that, as Michelle is,
Have you got any properties up there? Porky's got a massive property portfolio.
No, I haven't.
Why haven't you ever bought anything in Hull?
Because it's at the other end of the M62.
Well, you bought places in Ipswich, you bought places in Northumberland.
Well, I've always had interest there. I've always sort of worked there or something like that. But
now,
anyway,
should we tell Michelle, should we tell Porky how out of touch he is with the modern world? Because after Michelle very kindly said last night that she'd take us on a tour of Hull.
Yes.
And said, please DM me, right?
Yes.
I did DM her on Twitter, and we sorted it all out. About 2 hours later, Porky comes up with this pathetic tweet, right? Hi, Michelle. Lovely to hear from you. What's your best email address, please? Very best, Mike P. I mean, that is his way of trying to be flirtatious. Shocking.
No, I thought that was a DM. I thought it was a DM. There's something wrong with my DM system.
You thought that was a DM?
I did, honestly, Michelle. There was something wrong with my DM system.
So, I mean, it's a bit embarrassing, Michelle. You must have been horribly embarrassed by that.
I was massively embarrassed. Yeah. I considered following him just for that one action alone.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's very nice, isn't it?
Well, he's very old, you see, so, I mean, he doesn't really understand technology. That's the problem.
I'm neither old nor untechnology.
How old are you?
I just
How old are you?
I just happened to have a glitch on my phone at the time.
How old are you?
I've got a new phone. That's irrelevant. Why don't you ask Michelle how old she is?
Because I wouldn't ask Michelle how old she is, because she's quite happy to say how old she is.
Don't be ridiculous. Honestly, this guy's a bore. He's a class bore, Michelle. Don't bring him to Hull for an evening, because if you do, you'll throw yourself off that pier that you're currently sitting on in the dock.
If you take Porky on his own, you better get an ambulance ready, because only one third of his heart works. And if he sat in a car with you for 9 hours, I think you'd probably send him over the edge. Anyway, we shall be in touch, Michelle, because it's very kind of. We're not one to be missed.
Absolutely.
We'll be seeing you very soon.
We certainly
will.
will.
Where are we staying up there, by the way?
Where am I staying? I'm staying at my mum's.
No, I don't mean. No, I mean, where are we staying when we come up there?
Oh, where? I don't know. I'll have a where. My mum might like to stay at hers, but it's not a Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn? No, I can't stay at Holiday Inn. What's the best hotel?
It's the Crowne Plaza Holiday Inn. It's got a suite. I like staying in suites.
Don't knock the Holiday Inn. I'm currently looking at it right now, and it's overlooking all the boats. It's got a lovely view. You'd love it.
Yeah, okay.
The view of the marina. What more could you ask for?
Exactly, yeah.
He'll be face down at 4 o'clock in the afternoon anyway.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, Michelle, lovely to hear from you. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you very soon. That's Michelle Dewberry there, former Apprentice winner, very fine woman.
Indeed.
Wants to entertain us up in Hull. I think we should take her up on the offer, Porky.
I certainly think we should as well.
I'm not going in your car, though. It's too uncomfortable.
Don't be ridiculous. Faster than yours.
It's not. You want to have a race?
Yeah.
Okay, let's set it up. On the North Circular at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I don't think so.
Let's talk sport. How about this from Gary Rowett is no longer favourite for the whole job. They pretty much appointed Marco Silva. I think you need to change your script, says Adam. Well, there is no script that says anything. No. We haven't actually said who is the favourite for the job. No. All I was saying was I'd like to see Bobcat Bob getting it because I'd like to see him back in the Premier League.
I think that's mischievous. And who's the other guy they said it might be?
He's saying Marco Silva, who I think is Portuguese, isn't he?
It sounds Portuguese to me. Right, now we've got one here, and this is from Liam Pershaw. What is Pershaw famous for?
I don't know.
It's the village, or it's very close to the village, that the Archers is based on. The village,
is it?
The village that the Archers based on.
Ambridge.
Inkbarrow is the real village.
I thought the Archers was in Ambridge.
Yes, that's in the series, but the real village it's based on is Inkbarrow, and Inkbarrow is next to Pershore.
And where's that?
In the West Midlands.
Oh, okay.
On the border between...
Because, of course, and this is usually the time when you tell us how busy you were in the West Midlands when you used to work there.
Yeah, well, exactly.
As the, Suprema of the Birmingham West Country Bugle.
No, the Birmingham Evening Mail.
No, Redditch edition or something.
Yeah, between Warwickshire and...
circulation 43 and a half.
Worcestershire. Now then, great one here from Lee in Pershore. He says, "Hi lads, I had the same problem with a big van blocking my kitchen sunlight. I bought an old car, taxed and insured it, and left it out in the front of my house for a year. Then I moved. Less stress and well worth the extra money." From Lee in Pershore. But it's terrible, that when you do these things, wherever you go, wherever you live, whatever price you pay for a property, you're going to have neighbour problems. Because we are a crowded little island, it's always going to happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
you can't suddenly go off like if you're in Australia.
You get a shortage of bricks and a shortage of
tiles. Roof tiles. There's a national shortage of roof tiles, and thank God I've alerted the nation to it, just in case anybody's thinking of changing their roof. Make sure you get some tiles before you do, or you'll have a hole. And I was going to say a hole in your head then, a hole above your head.
A hole in your roof. Good to hear Michelle Dewberry call it right. Michelle Dewberry, that is, call it right about Hull 2017 on TalkSport. Most have spent proper time there. No, it is a special city. And here's one from James. He says, third on the list of attractions is a very small window. Book me in now, straight away. I think he's being sarcastic.
I must admit, I just cannot get that small window thing. I don't know what on earth that means.
Well, it's one of the smallest windows apparently in the world.
Yeah, but it doesn't even say which building it's in. Is it in a pub? Is it in an office? Is it in a local authority office or something? Don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
How about this from Dean? Porky, the modern-day Rackman landlord. Hashtag roof tiles.
That is very harsh. All I'm trying to do is identify a national shortage and then hopefully eliminate it.
That's a great one here from Rob, who says, Porky's mostly like that tramp in the Fast Show. This week I've been hunting for roof tiles. Look at that picture. That is brilliant.
Oh, that is shocking, isn't it? I don't know why people do this, you see. Because I have initiative, because I have entrepreneurial instincts like our new best friend, Michelle Dewberry. I don't know why
I don't think she's very impressed with you. She just told us she was going to stop following you on Twitter because of your hopelessly inept sort of suggestive email.
It wasn't suggestive at all. It was a means of communication to set up talking to her this morning.
Well, who do you send a tweet to that ends with very best, Mike P?
Well, because...
who else?
Excuse me.
You never sent me one like that.
Excuse me. On a first communication, it's only polite and proper to identify yourself. Yeah. I don't have to...
Well, you're not in a Jane Austen novel.
I don't have to identify myself. Oh, by the way, that could crop up in Porky Vision one of these days.
Porky Vision's coming up this show, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a great show on about the Bronte sisters. You know that, don't you?
I do know that.
I didn't see it. But
well, as long as you know about it,
it's
that's
very
the main
good.
thing.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
How about this? Spencer says there's no roof tiles because they've all been used for plates in Shoreditch eateries, which is quite funny, actually.
Actually, it's funny you should say that.
Quite hard to find plates these days in some of these trendy restaurants. A lot of them serve stuff on planks. Believe it or not,
they do. I mean, although I'm making a joke against myself, the plankery of restaurants these days has never failed to bemuse me. Why people want their food on a piece of wood, I've no idea.
Well, it's just something to do differently, isn't
or
it?
A piece
Dale
of
says
slate,
this.
Good
Good job, Porky isn't after Welsh slate tiles. The price of those would break the last quarter of his heart. You ever tried to do those?
Why are they
Welsh
expensive?
slate? Well, it sounds like they are.
Yeah, I suppose it come from the same quarry as Stonehenge stone.
Stone-Age stone.
Stonehenge stone.
Stonehenge stone.
Yeah.
Well, that's blue stone, isn't it?
That's blue stone.
That's something completely different.
Yeah, okay.
That is something completely different.
Right, okay. Now then, what I need to talk to you about, right, is the situation regarding an issue which you and I have been worried about for quite some time.
What situation is that?
That situation, in fact, is the...
Why are you stalling?
I'm not...
Oh, here you go. I can give you some help here. Craig says, look, the small window is down a street called Land of the Green Ginger.
Land of the Green Ginger.
Next to a pub.
Yeah, excellent. That's great.
No, so there's a street called Land of the Green Ginger, is there?
Sorry?
Is there a street called Land of the Green Ginger?
I didn't know that because...
Well, that's what he's saying.
Well, if he says that's fine. That's what I was going to get round to. No, but before that, I was going to actually avail our millions of listeners with a revelation which has quite shocked me.
Yeah.
And that is that in a new book that's coming out about Queen Victoria, who has always been referred during my lifetime... has always been referred to as the greatest monarch we ever had.
Really?
But who will shortly be overtaken in that greatness by our current monarch.
Well, she already has been overtaken in terms of longevity, hasn't she?
Longevity, certainly, but in terms of historical greatness, Queen Elizabeth II, I think, will assume that mantle from now on.
I think just because of the length of time she's been in, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, yes, but I mean, But she has been such a fabulous servant to this country, the current Queen, as Queen Victoria was. But Queen Victoria did it during the whole of the reign of Queen Victoria, the country got wealthier every year.
Right.
During the whole of the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, we have had turbulent economic times.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, she came in the 50s.
Post-war.
I mean, look at how much more wealthy this country is now than it was then.
Yeah, but in the 60s, we had real crises. We had the Dennis Healey going off to the
60s was
IMF, the International Monetary Fund.
No, you've got it completely wrong.
No, I haven't.
Your grasp of
I've got
history,
it completely right.
Your grasp of history, I'm afraid, is incomplete. Because if anybody looked at the way that people lived in this country, and I'm talking about the ordinary people, even the way you grew up, although it was in a sort of jumped up,
we didn't have a fridge,
bourgeois sort of situation in a cul-de-sac.
We didn't have a fridge.
No, exactly.
You used to have to put the milk in a cold bucket of water.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Who now doesn't have a fridge? Who now doesn't have a flat screen television?
But that's decades on.
No, but what I'm saying is that over the length of the Queen's reign, you'd have to say that people are now living much better lives.
Have you forgotten the 3-day week?
No.
Have you forgotten the winter of discontent?
No, that's gone now.
Have you forgotten the fact...
Listen, but now it's better than that, isn't it?
Have you forgotten the fact that children used to grow up 8 to a room in back-to-back houses in places like Crumple in Manchester?
Crumple?
Yes.
I've never heard of Crumple.
Crumple's a district of Manchester.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Anyway.
Since those days, things have improved.
Yes, they have improved. But what I'm saying is, in Queen Victoria's day, every year got successively better because... And the peak of the...
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Peak of wealth in this country was in 1912, and we've been in decline ever since.
You're saying that we've been in decline since 1912?
I am, I'm afraid.
Which, bizarrely, was when the Titanic sailed.
It was, actually, yeah.
You got that one wrong as well.
No,
You're going to get anything right this week.
No, I've got it all right. Now,
so you're telling me that we were a more wealthy country in 1912 than we are, say, for example, 100 years later in 2012 when London put on one of the most incredible and best displayed Olympic tournaments of all time?
No, I'm saying that the peak of the wealth of the British Empire, which we don't have anymore, was in 1912, OK?
That's
it doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, listen...
that's why it's the peak then, because it's no longer there.
The reason we got onto this is because I have a revelation to make.
This is time, by the way.
Don't worry, this is quickly. This is a family show. It's a family show, but we have to reveal this.
Yeah.
Researchers to the Royal Archives writing a new book about Queen Victoria have in fact more or less confirmed that Queen Victoria, as a young queen and a frisky young queen, and John Brown, who was...
he was Scottish, wasn't he?
He was Scottish, yeah. He worked on the Balmoral estate. Who was her very close, what's the word?
Companion?
Companion, very close companion, were in fact, how can you put this delicately, at it?
I don't think you need to put it at all.
OK.
Why would anybody care? I mean, it's a very long time ago.
Well, I think it's a matter of historical record.
Really?
It says here, they've actually found a paper in which it said... there was a flirtatious exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't quite understand...
Well, I hope it was better than yours with Michelle Dewberry.
Excuse me. It says here, the Reed papers, because this was research undertaken by a guy called Reed. Yeah.
Well, R-E-A-D.
R-E-I-D.
R-E-I-D,
yeah.
Like Herbert Reed.
Like Reed, you know. So it says the Reed papers...
Walter Reed?
excuse me, held in Berwick-upon-Tweed, include a diary entry from 1883... in which a doctor recalls seeing the Queen and Brown at the door to her room, her bedchamber, OK?
Yeah.
And this was at Windsor Castle, by the way. And he... Well,
so what?
Hang on.
So nobody cares.
Hang on. He observed John Brown lifting his kilt. OK? John Brown lifting his kilt and saying... Oh,
who is this guy?
Well, this is the researcher. He says, I thought it was here.
I thought it was here.
I thought it was here.
Well, he was obviously looking for something.
Well, this is the only dialogue we have. I thought it was here.
Right.
But Victoria replied by lifting her own skirt and saying, no, it is here.
Right.
This flirtatious...
It sounds like they were just looking for something.
Hang on. This flirtatious exchange proved unpalatable to the archives.
Yeah.
But researchers have stood their ground, a lady called Ms. Bird.
Oh, yeah.
And the details have now been published.
Fascinating. Maybe they could do a reenactment.
An author's note published in the American and Australian...
It's getting very late, you know.
Hang on. Editions of her book give details of her exchange with the archives.
I couldn't care less.
Well,
the most boring story you've told all week.
No.
Shocking.
I'm talking about Queen Victoria here and, the old... Well, do I have to go any further?
You can't say it. This is a family show. It is.
And
by the name of the band is?
R.E.M.
R.E.M.
And the singer is Michael Stipes.
That's right, Stipe.
Stipe, S-T-I-P.
Yeah.
E.
By the way, a lot of people are saying
S-T-I-P-E.
you've got Crumpel wrong. It's Crumpsall.
Crumpsall, I know it's
in
Crumpsall.
Manchester. You said Crumple.
No, I didn't.
You said it was Crumple.
I didn't. It's
And
Crumpsall.
it's Michael Stipe.
Stipe, I know that, yeah. Crumpsall I know very well. You've got to remember that I'm a boy of the greater Manchester region. I lived in Sale when I worked for the Daily Express. I was a top reporter there on the Daily Express in the north west of England.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that Michael Stipe, do you know why we played him? He's 57 today.
Is he?
I thought he'd been around a lot longer than that.
Yeah,
so
I
have
thought
to
he
say,
might be a bit older than that.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think he's had a good life, hasn't he?
Well, I think he has.
I mean, would you say R.E.M. at one stage during their development, maybe not now, were the world's top band?
I would say...
would say they were.
They were one of the world's top bands.
Yeah, because they had like multi-million selling LPs, but every band has at least one iconic record. They've had more than one, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they've had loads.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, absolutely. 57 today. I think he's done a good job. Where he first came to my attention was I was doing something else at home, and I got a phone call. And the phone call was from Andy Townsend, who is in fact coming onto our show
He's
shortly.
going to come on very shortly,
Talk about Chelsea and Spurs. But Andy said, Mike, are you watching the live concert at Wembley? And I said, no. I said, just switch it on. I switched it on.
Right.
Michael Stipe was singing this song. He was on the stage at Wembley, but he'd actually painted the Lone Ranger mask in blue around his eyes and his face.
He had, yeah.
And he looked very strange, you know what I mean? Very strange
He did
indeed.
look very weird indeed. I almost saw them live at the...
Almost? What do you mean almost?
Well, I almost saw them live at Tea in the Park, which was the big concert they do open air live up in Scotland.
Oh, in Scotland.
And the first year I was up there as the editor of the Mirror, we all got invited up, you know,
Yes.
so we were wandering about and I saw the Proclaimers, you know, I would go walk 500 miles and all that.
Would walk
But this was when I realised that I
500
wasn't
miles.
quite. This is
Yeah.
when I realised I wasn't quite the guy that I used to be in terms of rock concerts, because we actually drove there.
Right.
So I knew, well, I can't have a drink, and I didn't want to stay the night and stay in a tent.
Where did you drive to?
Well, it was in the middle of a field.
In where?
It was just sort of north of Glasgow.
How far north?
Well, it's about 30 or 40 miles. You
And
know,
you
it's a bit
drove?
like. Well, yeah, it's a bit like going
Didn't
to
you
Glastonbury.
realise that you had to get into a bit of rock and roll behaviour when you got
Well,
there?
that's exactly my point. You know, I was the responsible editor of the newspaper. I'd only just got there. I didn't want to start falling about in the mud and start, you know, rolling around in a tent
and having to
things
find
like
somebody
that.
to drive you home.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
you know, so basically what I did was I just said, look, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm going to have to leave. And we had to leave before R.E.M. actually came on the stage.
Oh, so you
which
almost
was very
saw them, but didn't
unfortunate.
because your incompetent ability to not organise things properly, even though you're supposed to be leading from the front because you're the editor.
Well, no, I was leading from the front.
Shameful
I
story.
let all of my staff stay up there,
Yep.
so that basically they could have a good time, and I told them to have a good time.
Do you know where I first heard that record, Losing My Religion?
Yeah.
I was in the British Virgin Islands, and I'd been staying on Necker, which is Richard Branson's
You talked
island.
about this. You were invited by Richard Branson, were you not?
That's right, yeah.
So you say.
So we stayed
This
there.
is where you say you learned how to water ski.
That's right, absolutely right.
Right.
With Valerie Singleton, actually.
Valerie Singleton, yes.
But anyway, the point
Whatever
is...
happened to Valerie Singleton?
well, I think she's still doing a great job, whatever she's doing.
Doing what?
Well, she's broadcaster and that sort of stuff, journalist and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we then went and stayed at Virgin Goa,
Yeah.
right, okay, which is the main island
You
of
mean
the
Virgin
Virgin
Gorda?
Islands. Gorda, Virgin Gorda even, that's
Goa
right, yeah.
is in India,
It
obviously.
is, actually, yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely
Really
right.
different part of the world.
Virgin Gorda. And then somebody said, I tell you what, we're going out to the Pirates pub tonight.
Yeah.
I said, that's great. How do we get there? I said, on a Boston Whaler. So we finished dinner and we got onto the Boston Whaler, and, you know, it's a little thing you sit at the back and you've just got a little engine that you you hold the lever to and off you go.
Yeah.
And about 10 minutes later, you know, on the clear Caribbean Sea, the
Yeah.
beautiful Caribbean Sea, because it was still quite early in the evening, it was like a bit of rock looming up on the horizon. And I tell you, and we got closer and closer and closer, and it was literally the most remote pub in the world.
Was
it was
it?
fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that story before. I'm bored.
No,
of it.
no,
I don't
no,
want to
no.
hear anymore. I've got somebody far more interesting to talk to.
Who's that?
Piers Morgan.
Brilliant.
He's just called in. He wants to talk to you about Arsenal. Piers,
that's
a very
great.
good morning to you.
Good morning, chaps. How are you?
Very well indeed. Now, Porky's got
Piers,
himself
good to
all
hear
worked
from
up
you.
about Mr. Giroud and his goal celebration. He said he should have run into the goal, pulled
course
the
he
ball
should.
out, run back to the centre circle and tried to score the winner.
Yeah, but you see, you're making the fundamental mistake of thinking that our expectation now at Arsenal is that we would beat a team like Bournemouth. Giroud was so unbelievably ecstatic that we managed to draw level with a team like Bournemouth, who were down to 10 men, that all he could think about was celebrating.
It's not good, is
I
it?
think that Thierry Henry back in 2004 would have pulled that stunt.
No.
Of course he wouldn't. And this shows to me a fundamental weakness with the mental fragility of this team.
Yeah, well,
we're saying actually this morning, Piers, that every year, pretty much around this time, it's either February or January. This happens, right? There's a crisis at Arsenal.
Usually happens in November.
This one seems to be worse, though. I mean, the fans really do seem to want Wenger to do something, or the board to do something.
Yeah, but it's Groundhog Day. I mean, how many times have I done Talk Sport in the last 5 years? I mean, nothing ever changes. I've been saying for 8 years that Wenger has run his course. To me, I look at the Premier League now and I see 6 top teams. Let's spell them out. It's Man United, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal. 5 of them have what I consider to be digital managers, right? We have an analog manager struggling to compete in a digital era. Yeah. As simple as that. Wenger's 20 years older than most of these guys. He looks his age. He looks like a guy who's been beaten down by year after year of comparative failure to his first 8 years of great success. And it's not going to change. And I just say again to Arsenal fans, at what point do we allow endless great managers to come and go on the market and we don't seize them? We could have gone for Guardiola. We could have gone for Klopp. We could have gone for Conte. All these guys have been available in the last 6-7 months, and we've passed on all of them because Wenger just refuses to go.
Sure, but Piers, hasn't the whole game changed over those 20 years as well, in the sense that footballers individually now need an awful lot of motivation when they are earning literally millions of pounds every year? And it's not just Arsenal in which you see individual players not having the mental strength to do what they should have done last night and get a 4th goal and come back 4-3. You see that at Manchester City. You see that maybe even at Chelsea, although they pulled it together. But individual footballers now need an awful lot of motivation because they're wealthy beyond their dreams at 21.
Let me counter that. I've just spent a week in Marrakesh in Morocco on holiday trying to recharge after Christmas imbibing, which I know you know all about.
Did you manage to recharge? The only picture I saw was of you opening a very large bottle of champagne.
I actually only had one drink in the week, but I ended up playing tennis with the coach at the hotel who 3 or 4 times a year, Cristiano Ronaldo comes and has tennis lessons with him. He's not a very good tennis player, but what he said about Ronaldo is fascinating. He said he's never met anybody. This is a guy who's been a professional tennis player. I've never met anybody from any sport, he said, who is as dedicated to winning and to fitness and to everything that goes with winning as this guy Ronaldo. And he said, that's the difference. He said, when he plays tennis with me, he's not that good, but he absolutely kills every point to try and beat me. Now, the point he was making was, yes, you can have all the money in the world. Ronaldo is one of the richest sportsmen in the world of any sport, and yet he doesn't need another dollar. He would do this for nothing. He's a guy that absolutely blazes to win.
But there's not many of those around.
I look at the Arsenal team. No, but I look at the Arsenal team, and I think, who would go over the trenches? You know, who actually, if you were really taking a metaphor like that, who would go over the trenches with you? And I don't see them. I don't see the Warriors. I talked to Paul Scholes about this a few months ago, and he said in the old days, the Arsenal games, you'd look down the tunnel, and there would be these gigantic warriors, right? Whether it was Adams, Keown, Bold, Seaman,
Vieira,
even Omri, Bergkamp, Vieira, Petit, Sol Campbell, Laurent, Gilberto Silva. Look at this Arsenal team now and ask one question. A, how many of the squad would get into any of Wenger's title-winning teams? And B, in a tunnel, when you're looking down, who intimidates you in that Arsenal team? And with the exception of Alexis Sanchez, I don't see anybody that...
And he doesn't look very happy. He didn't look very happy last night. And a lot of Arsenal fans are now worried that he's just going to go, well, you know what? I'm not going to win anything here. I'm going to go.
Why would he stay? Why, if you're Sanchez and you can earn the kind of money he can earn around the world, why on earth would you stay at Arsenal? You only go to a team like Arsenal if you're Sanchez, if you genuinely believe that we can win either the Premier League or the Champions League. Well, let me just reassure every sceptic out there who thinks I've been talking rubbish for 8 years. We are no nearer winning the Premier League right now than we've been in 8 years. We're no nearer winning the Champions League than we've been in 21 years. Wenger boasts about this great European record, right? 21 years it will be this year where he's never won the Champions League. 1 final, 2 semi-finals. If we lose to Bayern Munich, as everyone expects us to, this time it will be 7 consecutive years of a last 16 exit from a Champions League. We have come 3rd or 4th in the Premier League for 12 years, with one exception last year where Spurs marvellously bottled it at the last minute, so we came second, right? We lost to Leicester by 10 points last season. Every excuse Wenger's ever had has completely and utterly run dry.
Totally missed opportunity.
3-0 down. Honestly, my gut feeling at that moment was, actually, this could be the best thing that happens. Maybe this is the moment, this is the catalyst where even the most adoring Arsenal Wenger forever fans finally wake up and smell the damn cappuccino.
But you're going to have to up the campaign now, Piers, aren't you? Because, I mean, as you say, you've been doing the same old campaign for 8 years. It hasn't got anywhere. It's worse than one of Porky's campaigns. It's not working. Surely you've got... Have you not? What's the sort of killer weapon you're going to have to introduce?
I don't know. I don't know what more it will take for Arsenal fans to want change.
Why don't you buy into the club, Piers? Buy into the club. Become a small shareholder.
I own 10 shares in the club. The problem with the ownership is none of the great myths about Arsenal is that we can't compete with these oligarchs. Yeah. Our owner, Kroenke, is one of the richest sports owners in the world.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of those on the board as well.
Well, he's worth 10 billion. His wife's worth 15 billion.
Yeah.
She's the heiress to one of the great supermarket chains in America. Yeah. So we have one of the richest owners in world football who doesn't want to spend enough money to make us genuinely competitive. But I come back to this. If you put Mourinho or you put Klopp or you put Conte into this team at Arsenal now, I guarantee that with the energy, drive and passion that they have, a lot of it down to their youth, by comparison to Wenger, they would get another 25, 30% out of this team. This team is not playing for Wenger. They are not showing the heart and desire and drive that you need to win titles. And this has been going on now for year after year.
Oh, without doubt. He's a piece of the furniture. He's part of the furniture at Arsenal, isn't he? Yeah. Arsenal comes
I have to say, I do know.
Why?
Arsene
Wenger.
I do know what... Well, go on. Go on.
Let me ask you guys. The two mics. You've been in journalism a very, very long time. Right?
Not that long, but a long time,
yes. In Porky's case...
In Porky's case, well, I know what you mean about... I mean, he's the analogue to my digital,
When has there ever been a manager of a supposed big club in English football who's been given the free pass that Wenger's got from the British media in the way that Wenger is? I don't get it. I don't get why he has not been hounded and harried out of his job. All I keep hearing about is Wenger. He'll leave when he wants. Why? Why should he leave when he wants?
Listen, we've got to stop. Porky, have you seen the time,
just very quickly.
We're running a radio show
to the fact that in the Premier League, managers are now going after 18 games.
Yeah, well,
Arsene Wenger's... I think I'm right in saying Wenger's been in charge of Arsenal for 18 years longer than anybody else in the Premier League.
That's right.
Amazing.
And yet I wouldn't mind if he was winning big trophies. Let me tell you, Mourinho has won, I think it's 6 league titles in 3 different countries since Wenger last won one. Alex Ferguson has won 6 league titles, Premier League titles, since Wenger last won one. He's been retired nearly 4 years.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible.
He's won 6 more league titles than Wenger in the last 12 years. What is going on?
I know, it's shocking. Listen, we could do this for a lot longer, but we'll get back to you another time because our producers...
This time next year.
This time next year.
Exactly the same conversation.
I'm going to leave you...
Wish you a happy New Year, chap.
I'm going to leave you with this tweet from Sam who says, if Arsenal winning the league would shut up Piers Morgan, I'm all for it.
That's a bit harsh.
Well, I actually said, I tweeted this morning that Wenger will be the death of me, and that seems to have been the one catalyst to Arsenal fans thinking this may not be a bad idea.
Absolutely.
Tremendous. Happy New Year, Piers. Thank you very much indeed. Piers Morgan, a serial Arsenal fan and, of course, a Wenger out specialist. But he's still in. This is Talk Sport. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to The Two Mics. The crisis at Arsenal goes on. We just had Piers Morgan on the phone saying he doesn't know what else he's got to do. But of course, he's encouraged an awful lot of fans to tweet him after saying basically that Arsene Wenger will be the death of me, which they all seem to be encouraging in such an amazing way. He did say something interesting, though, about analogue and digital, because I feel very much like the digital version of the mics, and you are the analogue version of the mics. We'll get into that a little bit later on. We'll be talking about Hull. We'll be talking some more about Swansea, because I want to say something to you about Paul Clement, the new Swansea manager, who I'm calling the John Terry of the management business. Also, of course, we'll be talking to Andy Townsend, former Chelsea player, captain of Ireland, Aston Villa and all that sort of thing, old mate of yours, former co-host of yours as well. It's all going on. And also Porky Vision coming up as well. 08717 22 3344. You're listening to The Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. Yeah, so let me talk to you about Paul Clement.
Yes,
right? We've already had a word about Sam Allardyce, and now it's not going terribly well for him down at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, he'll turn that round, don't worry.
Well, you are a great supporter of anybody who's about to hopefully give you an interview when you go and see them,
which
is completely and utterly against the rules of journalism.
I'm a supporter of a man who knows what he's about, and Sam Allardyce knows what he's about. Don't worry about that.
I'm not worried about it.
He's about survival in the Premier League when survival is needed, and expansion and success in the Premier League when he's able to do it.
Right, and what success has he had in the Premier League other than actually just staying in it?
Well, I think when you manage a club like Bolton and you take them to the heights that Bolton got to, you know, competing in Europe and that kind of stuff, that's the mark of a man who gets every last ounce of effort and return out of a limited situation of resources. The situation now, right, is that Crystal Palace are sitting 1 point above Sunderland and Swansea, both on 15 points. Yep.
Hull City down the bottom with 13. The word is perhaps that they might be appointing this Portuguese guy called Marco Silva, who nobody's really ever heard of.
Marco Silva.
Used to be manager of Olympiacos and Estoril in Portugal. But apart from that, I don't know much about him, really. But we'll be trying to get some more about him as well.
I don't think anybody in the world knows much about him.
Your old mate, David Moyes, right? You'd have to say at Sunderland, has, I would think, got more chance of scoring more goals with Jermaine Defoe there than at the moment Sam Allardyce has at Crystal Palace.
Well, after 3 games, I think it's very difficult to say, Sam Allardyce, he's not got it right yet.
He scored 1 goal.
Got it right, yeah. He took over 2 days before his first game, so he can rub that first game out altogether.
But I'll tell you what, one thing I am impressed with was he took over Crystal Palace. He went straight in the first day to training and went and said, right, I'm taking over the dugout for the first game, right?
That's right.
Which I think he won, didn't he?
No, was it a draw?
I thought he won the first. Oh, yeah, it was a draw. Right, sorry.
Yeah.
But this guy, Paul Clement, who's come in for Swansea, right? He decides that he's not going to be in charge for the first game. So he sits in the stands. Hang on. So he sits in the stands, right? Yeah. At half-time, when it's 0-0, he decides that things are not going too badly. So he wanders down to the dressing room and has a bit of a chit-chat with the boys at half-time. They go back out. Swansea then look like they're winning. They score the second goal.
It's true.
Right until the end, very close to the end of the game. A bit like, remember that story I told you about Don King moving towards the away from the corner of his boy
to the other boy
who was Leon Spinks.
Exactly.
And by the end of the fight, he was in Muhammad Ali's corner.
That's right. Yeah.
And he went off arrived with the guy who was the champion and left with the new champion.
That's right. Yeah.
This guy sort of wanders into the technical area as the game is coming to an end, as if to claim it as his own.
Yes.
Now, I mean, he may well be a great manager, he may well be a fantastic coach, he may be a lovely guy, but that seems to me to have a touch of the John Terry's in the full kit stuff.
I know what you mean.
When he didn't win the Champions League by playing
it. Got changed into kit, which I admired him for, by the way, because historically now he's part of it, and he will love to have considered himself to be, the Chelsea Colossus of all times and didn't want to be out of those pictures, and I don't blame him. I always thought it looked ridiculous seeing Paul Scholes running around, where did they win? It was the Nou Camp. When they won their first Champions League in '99, when they won the treble.
Who are you talking about?
Manchester United.
Yes.
I always thought it was daft seeing Paul Scholes running around the pitch in a suit. Yeah. To be honest, I think he should have got changed.
Yes, possibly.
I think John Terry did a good thing there.
Possibly, but don't you think it's a bit odd from Paul Clement sort of just wandering into the technical area to sort of share the spoils of the winners?
Well, I mean,
presumably not having anything to do with the game.
Well, yeah, but you said he went down at half time. Now he might have delivered 6 magical words at half time. Which might have transformed the team's
in which case, why didn't
prospects.
he just run the game from the dugout from the start?
Well, he might have thought, hang on, I can't sit here and let this happen. I can see the obvious error in what's going on. I'm going to change it.
No, I think
for all I know, he could have done that.
Well, no, because some managers do this. Sam Allardyce wasn't one of them. Some of them will just sit there basically and wait and see how the first game goes. And if it's horrendous, right, and they get slaughtered 5-0, they can say, well, I'm going to take over the next game.
Yes, absolutely.
I just think it's a bit sort of, it's a slightly disingenuous way to do it.
Well, we're going to have to see, aren't we? Going to have to see what happens as time marches
We certainly
on.
are. Now, do you know that it is 50 years ago today that Donald Campbell and his Bluebird machine made a record of a land speed record? You do know that, don't you?
50 years today that they made the land speed record.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about land here.
Well, it was called the water speed record.
Thank you.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, water. Yeah, because he did both, by the way.
He did both.
He did the flats over in
was it the Salt
Daytona.
Flats?
Yeah, that's right.
No, was it the Salt Flats in Utah or somewhere?
Utah, somewhere like that. That's absolutely right. But his boating activities on water were Coniston, Lake Coniston.
That's right. Yeah, and the world water speed record was actually captured. It was a freezing January morning. But everybody knows the famous picture.
Yeah.
Of because tragically he died.
I remember it so well. We had a black and white telly, Mike, in our house. house, and my mum and dad said, "You've got to come and see this. You know, it's on the news." And it was the first story on the news. And I saw the boat, which was called the Bluebird, wasn't it?
Yes.
Hurtling across constant water, and then slowly.
Well, it was more like a rocket than a boat, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was like a supercar, actually. You know, from the kids' programme.
Yeah.
And slowly and almost imperceptibly, the front of the boat started lifting, and then it lifted, and then it did a backflip, and I was so
and then it sort of
small.
broke in half.
Yeah, I was so small at the time.
Yeah.
I thought, is this part
you
of
thought
the?
that was part of the thing.
Yeah. I thought, is this what the boat does? And then, of course, it's smashed to pieces, and I don't think his body's ever been found, has it?
I don't think it has, actually, because, in fact, I think his daughter has gone to lay a wreath there today on Coniston Water because they never were able to recover it. But the interesting thing about the story, not that it's more interesting in the event itself, was that our mate Mickey Brennan is the guy that took that famous picture, that world-famous black and white picture. And I remember him telling me the story when we were in New York together, because basically what had happened was it was a set event. But because of the weather and because of the wind, it had to keep being postponed, because when you're travelling at that kind of speed, obviously if you hit a wave, which is a little bit too high, it could be deadly.
Or piece of driftwood.
But it wasn't so much that, it was more the weather related, because they didn't want to do it in the rain, they didn't want to do it, it was too windy. And so all the photographers who had been amassed up there to take pictures of the event had got to the point after a couple of days where they said, well, there's no point in us all sitting here, you know, because when it happens...
Who knows when it'll go?
You know, it could be, 12 days from now, it could be 12 hours. So they worked out a rota and sent all the ones who were not going to be left behind to a pub. So most of the photographers were in a pub when it finally worked out that they were going to...
Which is not unusual for a stakeout.
It's not. And so then Mickey Brennan was the guy that was left behind to take the picture. And as luck would have it, he was the one that was there when it actually happened.
Golly, that's fantastic.
And he put out a Facebook post today, which I've actually retweeted, and he was saying that, people talk about when you're sort of in the zone and you're trying to take a picture, you're trying to think about your work. And he says some people talk about religion as a mantra for deliverance. And he says, that particular morning, the only mantra I had in my brain was, for heaven's sake, don't mess this up.
That's right.
Not quite in those words.
That's right. But, don't screw up, so
exactly, because you wouldn't want the world speed record to be made on water and go back to the office and put the stuff in the developer and find out there was nothing on it.
Your lens, because it was moving at 322 miles an hour, and your lens didn't quite capture the moment when it went. You know the other guy...
And do you know he won Photographer of the Year for that picture?
That's fantastic.
And his life completely changed, because that was when he ended up going to New York.
That's right. Well, Mickey deserved it. He was a brilliant photographer. A little bit temperamental at times, Mickey, but he was a great photographer.
He could be.
I'll tell you something. There was somebody else there that you know who was at the lakeside and was the last man to shake hands with Donald Campbell before he set off on that fateful bid. David Benson, the motoring editor of the Daily Express.
Is that right?
Yes.
What was he doing there?
He was our correspondent for the whole thing. He was in collaboration writing a book with Donald Campbell, who he'd known for years, from going over to America and covering his Speedland records. And David, when he retired, he bought a house down the highway next to Free Trade Wharf, where I used to live.
Oh, yeah.
And... it was like a townhouse. One night I was down in Narrow Street, just for the benefit...
It's in time, by the way.
Hang on,
you can't start another story.
For the benefit of our millions of listeners, Narrow Street's a street that runs parallel to the River
Narrow
Thames.
Street.
And I was having a drink, and Dave was in there. He said, come back and have a brandy with me. And he told me the whole story, the whole Donald Campbell story. Yeah. And he shook hands with him, and then he put his the cockpit cover down, you see what I mean, and bolted it. And then the boat took off, and of course that's the last time we ever saw him.
Yeah, I know, shocking,
absolutely amazing.
Now Andy Townsend's coming up, an old mate of yours, former co-host of yours. More of a mate of yours than mine. I think he's a terrific guy, though.
He's a mate of everybody's, Andy. He's a great guy.
He is a great guy, because he's going to look ahead. Tonight's big game, of course, is Tottenham-Chelsea.
Yes.
Can Chelsea's in March to glory be stopped by Spurs? Do you think it's the biggest game so far this season?
Without a shadow of a doubt, of course it is.
I suppose so, because the big question is, can Spurs actually stop Chelsea's winning streak? This will be, their 14th win in a row.
That's right. Can they stop the steamroller, which has become Chelsea?
Let's ask a man who knows, and that is, of course, Andy Townsend, former Chelsea captain. Andy, very good afternoon to you.
Mike, how are we doing, guys? All good?
Very well indeed.
Not bad at all. Now, I mean, Spurs have been a bit patchy, I would say, this season so far, but they've hit a bit of a run, haven't they? But Chelsea just look too good at the moment, don't they?
Well, they've been fantastic. They really have been incredible. The run they've been on, the way they've done it, the way they've played, I think the way Conte has gone about his work has been sensational. And you're right, hearing Mike use the word juggernaut, I mean, that's exactly what they've become. They are relentless the way that they're knocking teams over at the moment. But the one team in this in the 13 matches they've won straight up to now. The one team for 45 minutes that rocked them was Tottenham, more than anybody, at Stamford Bridge. The first 45 minutes in that game, anyone that was watching it would have seen Spurs play very well and unsettle Chelsea and unnerve them. They allowed Chelsea back into that game, and eventually they went on to grind out another victory. But I think that I'm sure the Chelsea players, I'm sure Conte is aware going into this tonight that Tottenham do have the ammunition to potentially bring that run to a halt should Chelsea let them.
Thing is, Andy, I remember talking to Ray Houghton when he was part of that fantastic Liverpool team, and he said the thing was, every time we left the dressing room, we knew we were going to win. Now, that would be the way the Chelsea players probably feel at the moment, but does there come a tipping point when that feeling actually trips over into complacency?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think with this guy, though, I think with Conte at the helm, Mike, I think that he's one of those that is I think whenever we've seen him, when we saw him with the Italian national team, when we saw him with Juve, he has got that kind of relentless nature about him, where he's permanently demanding from his players the next game, and he probably doesn't allow them to dwell on too much on what they've already done. I just got a feeling he is, slave driver's not a nice way of putting it, but
very intense.
He's so intense. I mean, he really is, and I just do get the feeling when I watch Chelsea at the moment that I don't think I've sensed a slowing down in this 13-game winning streak. I haven't sensed that they're slowing down, even though Stoke managed to knock a couple past them at home the other day, and obviously, with half an hour left on the clock, that game looked potentially tight for them, but I haven't seen anyone, apart from Tottenham really, I haven't seen anybody really seriously upset them and unsettle them. I mean, Stoke, certainly did quite well the other day. They did very well, but I do genuinely feel this is a game tonight that Tottenham, and the way they're playing, the way that they're going about it, I do feel that they have got the boys that could beat Chelsea if they're not at their best.
I wonder as well, Andy, whether we haven't even yet seen the best of Chelsea. They haven't even reached the peak of where they're going with Conte, because one of the things he seems to have managed to do incredibly well is harness, all the powers of Costa, Fabregas, of Hazard. He's turned them into sort of much better and the players that he thought they would be under Mourinho but never were. But I wonder if Spurs and what happened last time they played will sort of wind them all up again into a frenzy.
May well do. Let's hope so. I mean, I hope so. Yeah, you could be right. It's a sombre thought for everybody else in the league if Chelsea haven't peaked yet, because if they are going to continue to get better, then that's not going to give anybody else a look in whatsoever. If they're going to still improve, I think Costa's been the best player I've seen all season so far. Hazard and Pedro in particular has been a different player this season. When you look around the team, David Luiz has gone from being almost
a liability, used to be
ridiculed at times.
Yeah, clownish.
To now, in comparison to some of the other centre halves we're seeing, to becoming a real accomplished central defender with genuine defensive qualities about what he's doing. I can't see any weaknesses in the team. I really can't. The only thing last season, Mike, when we were talking about Spurs, last season I always felt they had the best balance, the best sort of shape, with those flying fullbacks, with Harry Kane up the middle, with all the other bits around it, with the likes of Alderweireld and Vertonghen in centre halves. I thought they had the best balance and the best shape of any team, and they just come up a little bit short, as we know. So look, I still think tonight could be an incredibly tight match. I think it'll be genuinely very, very exciting, and I wouldn't want to put everything I've got in my back pocket on Chelsea winning it. I really wouldn't.
No, and do you think, Andy, taking nothing away from Chelsea, because you can only seize the opportunity, as many say Arsenal should have done last season, but actually...
Or last night, even.
But you know what I mean? Arsenal could have made a run for the Premier League last season because Leicester won it, if you see what I mean. And what I'm saying is, Chelsea aren't really facing 2 or 3 teams as strong as them. Everybody else seems to be a bit fractured in the way that they've coped this season.
Yeah, well, again, you're either one of those managers that when at this time of the year you start to rotate, you chop and change, and we've seen various teams putting out their 11 starting 11s over the last week or 10 days with 3 changes, 4 changes, 5 changes going into every game. Whereas Chelsea just keep rolling out the same. There's pretty much it's only really Willian and Fabregas are the only two people that come in for Matic and Pedro. That's about it. I've hardly seen any other changes. And those changes that I mentioned there, they're two genuine world-class players coming in for two other world-class players. So you know, they don't seem to. It doesn't seem to hamper them at all what they're doing. Look, do I think Chelsea will go the whole season without losing or dropping points or drawing matches? No, of course I don't. No. Can they beat Spurs tonight? Yes, they can. But I do think it's one of those games. If Tottenham play like they can, if Tottenham are up for it like they can, like they should be, I do want to think Spurs can rattle Chelsea and make it a real proper game to watch.
Well, they can't go winning forever as well, can they? That's not football.
No. Well, not forever, but certainly for a while.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Now, what about, just before we let you go, Andy, down the bottom of the table, there's been a bit of managerial shilly-shally, you'd have to say. Paul Clement comes into Swansea, nobody's too sure about that. I was just saying to Porky, I rather admire his kind of John Terry-esque appearance at the end, as if, winning the first game was all down to him. Then we got Hull getting rid of Mike Phelan. They're supposedly maybe bringing in this guy, Marco Silva, who's a Portuguese guy, former manager of Olympiacos. Nobody really knows. Watford are in a terrible place. Here we have Sam Allardyce coming into Crystal Palace, only scored one goal in 3 games. I mean, it's all a bit horrendous down there.
Yeah, no, look, it's a minefield down there. I never experienced relegation as a player, but I'd had a good few seasons where I was looking over my shoulder, twitching and nervously worrying about.
Yeah, but that was your drink problem, Andy. That was nothing to do with...
nothing to do with the game, you're right. That was when I met you,
Actually, funnily enough, Andy, I've got a tweet here from a guy called Wayne, who says, Mike, can you please ask Andy Townsend if it was really him and Andy Gray's fault that Porky got slapped while out with him, as he told us a few months ago. He told a story of how you were all out for dinner and some woman slapped him because it was your fault.
Yeah. It's very true, that, actually. Look... And I say, you very kindly blame me for that, Mike.
He did, yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. I thought.
Well, you know what he's like. He blames whoever's not in the room.
I thought I was.
Well, exactly. Yes, that wasn't actually our fault. Mr. Parry decided to stand on a chair in a restaurant and sing Everton songs as people were enjoying their fine dining.
So he was the same height as everybody else then.
That's very clever, isn't it? Yeah. Don't know what we're talking about this. We were talking about relegation football, you know?
Well, you brought up drinking, so I'm afraid, as ever, if you've got a glass house, you should start chucking any stones.
Listen, at the bottom end, what's interesting for me as well is that, Palace go for Big Sam, who's obviously tried and trusted and tested in this sort of environment and is the sort of man that can go in there, you would imagine, despite last night, obviously really disappointing. For him to lose that one, but they believe they've got the right person there to get the job done and keep them in the league. And then you get Swansea going for Paul Clement, who's he had a go at it at Derby, and for whatever reason that didn't quite work out. He's been an assistant manager, a coach at some of the highest profile clubs anywhere in the world, but they've gone for a coach to try and get them out of trouble.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. You've got two very different schools of thought there from two clubs battling away. Hull City is just a bit of a nightmare, really. I feel sorry for Mickey Phelan losing his job there. I mean, they should have given Mickey the job and put him in place when he had that brilliant start. They should have, so quite clearly Mickey must have been thinking all along, I don't fancy I'm going to get this job, or if I do, I'm not going to have it for very long.
Sure.
So
who they turn to, and who's the chap you told? Marco Silva, did you say?
Marco Silva, yeah.
Portuguese.
He's never played international football for Portugal. He's played for Estoril and managed Estoril. He's been to Olympiacos, not there anymore. I don't know where he's come from.
Well, when you think of, we've had Swansea recently have had Guidolin, they've had Bob Bradley. Others have gone down. I remember when West Brom brought Pepe Mel in from Spain. Those sort of people usually come here and get swallowed up within about 30 seconds flat.
Well, I mean, Pep Guardiola's struggling, so, I mean, what are these guys going to do?
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, look, with him, he's got the track record, the pedigree, and he has got the players, Mike, to probably still have a big impact on what goes on at the top end of the Premier League. I always find it's strange where if I was a Hull City now, I'd go and give it to a Gary Rowett. I'd give it to a younger coach who understands the intricacies of our football and also has had one foot in the division below, because that's where Hull City are. Let's be honest, Hull City have got 1 foot in the Championship right now.
Yeah.
Even though there's 18 games, 19 games to go, whatever it is.
Sure.
They got 1 foot in that league, and they might need someone as well that not only can try and have an impact now, but also has half an idea on how to get them out of the Championship.
Absolutely right.
Listen, Andy, thanks so much for coming on.
Andy, thanks a lot, mate.
Massive game tonight, of course. You'll hear all the goals as they go in and everything else that happens as the game unfolds. It's at White Hart Lane, Spurs against Chelsea. Porky Vision next.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
Well, what better a way to come towards the end of the show? After having had Michelle Dewberry on, trying to lure us up to Hull. Piers Morgan's been on. Andy Townsend's been on.
Yes.
Now it's Porky Vision, the best TV review, as we said earlier, this side of the North Sea.
Indeed.
So, what do you got for us? What have you been watching?
Well, I tell you what, there's a new 8-part series on called The Halcyon, OK?
The Halcyon?
Yeah.
Isn't that the name of a hotel?
It is a hotel.
Yeah.
And yet, funny enough, it's filmed in a like an office building. It's not a hotel at all.
Is this about the hotel, though?
No, what I'm saying is, in real life, it's filmed in an office block, OK? But they've turned it into a hotel for the benefit of the 8-part series, OK?
Is the series about the hotel, is my question.
I keep telling you that, and you're too stupid to
there's no
take
point
it in.
getting upset with me.
The Halcyon is the name of the TV show. It's about a hotel in 1940.
Oh, right.
OK?
I thought, because there's a Halcyon Hotel, which I think is in Kensington now.
Oh, really?
I'm talking about.
No.
That's what I'm asking you about.
This was in 1940, and it's all about where the rich and the lewd, for want to...
Rich and the lewd?
Yeah.
You know this is a family show.
Yeah, no, it's a family show.
Words used that shouldn't be used.
We're sort of, getting together just as war was breaking out, you know what I mean? It was when what was known as the False War was going on between 1939 and early 1940,
Well, the war broke out in 1939.
Yeah, I know, but it didn't really happen until 1940.
Well, the war broke out in 1939.
The expeditionary force went off to the continent.
It's not up for argument.
And there was some references to
Maybe you missed it.
But anyway, listen, this is what's great about this is that I have in the past referred to situations in which horizontal refreshment was taking place.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is a family show.
You can only say that once.
I'm only going to say it
anymore.
I'm only going to say it once because this is a family show, and I have to say the extent to which scenes were graphic in the Halcyon amounted to vertical refreshment.
I see.
Not horizontal.
Well, you can't say that either.
It was taking place in a sort of 4-poster bed in a suite, and it was like, bouncing off the roof of the 4-poster bed.
That's fine. That's
but
enough.
this is a family show. I don't want to go into that too much.
I don't think you should do too much detail on that.
But the interesting thing about it was this was taking place between Lord Hamilton, who owns the hotel, right?
Lord Hamilton?
Lord Hamilton.
Who's he?
He's the guy who owns the hotel.
Okay.
And his mistress, okay?
Yeah.
And his wife was outside the door. But there is a manager of the hotel who is completely in the pay of Lord Hamilton, who advised her not to go in because his lordship wasn't well.
I see.
Although the wife knew what was going on.
Yeah. So the wife doesn't think that he's unwell. She doesn't really buy that, does she?
No, she knows that he is exercising freely with members of the opposite sex.
Yes.
Without a shadow of a doubt, okay?
Right.
Now, the interesting thing is that And this woman is not the mistress. I'm talking about...
Which woman?
Well, the actress I'm going to tell you about, Cara Toynton.
Is this the woman who's in some of the papers today?
Excuse me, it's a woman who's in some of the papers today.
Yeah. Former soap opera star, right?
Former soap opera star in EastEnders. She is filmed from a rear view shot in total nakedness.
A rear view shot?
Yes.
Addressing... Rear view?
Her posterior is on view. Put it that way.
Sure, this is the kind of review you want to be giving out this time of the day.
It's a family show. It's a family show. But you've got to be factual. You know, we are all adults.
What time is this show on? I hope it's past the watershed.
Kind of 9 o'clock-ish.
So it's past the watershed.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Right. And there is a view of her posterior, which is very graphic.
Why do people get so worked up about this stuff,
I don't know,
by the way?
I don't know. But anyway, it's a very good drama. It's all about...
What's it about, though?
Well, it's about... what happens to the hotel during the war?
It sounds like a glorified soap opera.
No, it's not. No, what happens during the war? But also, the interesting thing is, after Lord Hamilton has been involved
Does it get bombed, by the way?
Well, funny enough, in a trailer before the thing actually starts, it shows a wall of the hotel being blown in, but we haven't got to that bit yet. Okay, so
don't give that away then.
I won't give that away.
No.
They're building a bomb shelter below it. But anyway, the point of the story is, Lord Hamilton has been giving it vertical refreshment.
Was he a real character, this guy? Or was it?
No, this is all fiction. It's all fiction, yeah.
Well, you stop with the refreshment references.
Okay,
but family show.
All right, well, after that sort of, graphic exercise in the afternoon, he dies.
Really?
Yeah, he dies, yeah. Oh. They're all having a dance downstairs.
Let that be a warning to you.
Exactly. They come back, the old ticker's gone, you know what I mean? So you've got to watch that. I've got to watch it particularly, only one third of my artwork.
Well, that's what you have to watch.
So now you've got a new Lord Hamilton, and I can predict how it's going to happen, because Lord Hamilton Jr.
Is his son?
That's right, it's his son. He comes back to the hotel after having been through his training course as a Spitfire pilot. Oh, yeah. So it's obvious that the new Lord Hamilton, who's only aged about 23, is clearly going to get blown away by the Germans in the Battle of Britain.
Well, I'm predicting it.
I'm predicting it because I'm a TV reviewer, and I can see the way these things go. Okay, right. Now I'm not saying
something tragic will befall him.
I think so. I'm not saying that'll happen for sure.
Who's in this apart from that woman's name? Anybody else you know?
Nobody worth worrying
about.
I
thought I read something the other day that said this was going to be the new sort of Downton Abbey.
Well, it could well be, but I mean, why do you want to stick labels on it? It's very good.
Is it very good?
I think it's good.
Is it ITV?
A lot of rounded characters.
Is it ITV?
It's sort of ITV-ish.
Sort of ITV-ish?
Yes.
Well, either it is or it isn't.
Do you know what I've also discovered?
What have you been watching? What else?
No, hang on. No, this is about a technical thing. No, we're not out of time.
Yeah, we're nearly out of time.
This is a technical thing. You know when Downton Abbey came on, it was the first ever drama which showed the names of the characters in letters around the screen rather than a scroll of them. You know what I mean?
Eh?
And everybody does that now.
What are you talking about?
They just put the names of the actors and the characters, but they dot them around the screen instead of them being a long scroll.
What do you mean?
Well, you know what the screen is, don't you?
I do know what the screen is. I'm staring at one right now.
Yeah, that's right. And they appear on the left and the right and up and down and all that. It's very, very good.
Are you talking about during the credits or at the start?
At the start. No. They've never done that before.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
That's rubbish.
Anyway, listen. Now, the other one I've been watching, is Witness for the Prosecution.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant.
You've talked about this before, haven't you?
That little dwarf guy, Toby.
Yeah. You can't say that word either.
Well, it's a little small guy called Toby, okay? And the thing is, what an intriguing play it is, because there's a lot of Rogerisation in that as well.
You can't say that either.
Well, you can, because it's a family show.
It's a family show, so you can't say all these words.
And what happens is, it's the most...
obsessed, aren't you?
What do you mean?
Well, you're obsessed with mentioning all of these shows that seem to have some adult content in them.
Well, it goes on. What are you going to do? Ignore it,
Well, it's all after the water show. We've not got anything for some of our younger listeners who might be coming back from school.
Younger listeners?
From lunch or something like that.
Well, Grantchester. That's about a vicar.
Okay.
In Grantchester.
Yeah, what's that about?
And that's where the author lives, Geoffrey, what's his name?
Geoffrey Archer.
Yeah, he lives there in real life. Okay.
Lord Archer to you.
Lord Archer, that's him, yeah. And there must have been a bit of Rogerisation going on there.
I've just asked you for something which is suitable for kids coming home from school.
Well, vicars are suitable for kids, aren't they? Because one of the leading characters in that one is carrying a child.
Okay.
Excuse me. But has been cast out by her family into the snow.
I think you've run out of time.
No, I haven't. Listen.
Go on.
The other one is, I think it's called People My Mother Knew, but it's about the Irish thing.
People My Mother Knew?
Yeah, it's about this base in Ireland, a US Air Force base.
Oh, yeah?
US Air Force base.
Is this during the war as well?
That's during the war, that's right.
Why do they keep doing it? See, this is the trouble.
Yeah.
They keep setting all these shows in sort of period times.
Anyway.
Because they all want to be the next Downton Abbey.
Anyway, we all think that the woman who runs the local shop and is married to some boring guy, really boring Irish guy.
In Northern Ireland?
In Northern Ireland, that's right. That her head won't be turned. I'm telling you. That her head won't be turned by the local dashing US Air Force officer.
The man with the silk stockings.
The man with the silk stockings, that's
cigarettes.
Right. But guess what at the end?
No, what? Don't give the end away.
No, she runs off with the US Air Force American officer.
Well, how do you know?
And abandons her husband and her kids. Well, I mean, she hasn't run off with him yet.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Don't want to give that away.
No, but she's gone down a country lane to meet him for a quick snog. But we all know that that's going to turn into something else.
Anything that you've watched that doesn't involve any kind of, intimate activity.
Well, I haven't even told you about Witness for the Prosecution. In Witness for the Prosecution, it's such a convoluted plot.
Right.
The guy who is the Rogeriser, who does end
up... Why do you keep saying that word?
Hang on. Who does end up murdering his elderly lover, right?
Yeah, right.
Gets involved in a convoluted plot, which in the end leads to, unfortunately... the housemaid being hanged.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a bit brutal.
But she didn't do it. They're very clever. They're very, very clever. They and by the way, the small guy, Toby, what's his name? The small guy, he got it so wrong, right? He became wealthy on the back of this case.
Isn't he the detective or something?
No, he's the lawyer. He's the lawyer. And everybody said this man's a genius because he managed to save the man who was accused of the murder from the gallows, okay?
Yeah.
With a really convoluted plot about, accusation and cross-accusation, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he went to Le Touquet. Have you ever been to Le Touquet?
Le Touquet's a great golf
Lovely
course
place.
there, yes.
Yeah, well, I've been there. I went there with Nick Lloyd and played
super.
golf. Yeah, that's right.
Well, you didn't play golf there.
Well, he went to a casino there, actually. He played a bit of golf. We all went to the
you
casino.
wouldn't have played golf
No,
there.
no,
You're
no.
not good enough to play Le Touquet.
But anyway, so what happens is...
Seen the time, by the way.
He comes across the bloke he saved, who is actually now... out on the Rogerisation trail again. Hang on. With the woman...
I should get a cattle prod
with the woman who was allegedly, the femme fatale.
Femme fatale.
Yeah, femme fatale.
Femme fatale.
Femme fatale. And guess what?
Go on.
The little guy, Toby...
Yeah.
is so upset with himself for getting it so wrong because he's actually got the maid now hanged who was innocent, but she's been sent to the gallows.
When you say hanged, you mean executed by the Crown?
Yeah, she was hanged. Yeah, they
made it
hanged her.
sound like that she's been lynched.
No, they took her to Holloway Jail and put a noose round her neck and then pulled the lever, boing, and off she went.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, and
definitely time's up now.
He's so distressed. You know what he does?
I've no idea.
He walks into the sea. And nobody ever saw him again.
Great.
I
wish you'd do that.
He was like,
Why don't you go walk into the sea?
Glenn, what's his name? He disappeared in the English Channel.
Glenn Miller.
So did Toby.
Yeah, well, something to think about. Thank you very much indeed. That was Porky Vision. Loads more coming up. Now, there's quite a lot of tweets have come in after your Porky Vision extravaganza.
Yes.
But this one's from a bit earlier,
right.
Which I think I should read out as well. Water skiing with Valerie Singleton sounds like one of Alan Partridge's TV show ideas, like youth hosteling with Chris Eubank.
Oh, really?
That's from Jim.
Yes.
Quite a few people are describing words which, of course, I asked you not to say and not to repeat, which some of which I can't read out.
I can understand that.
But a lot of people saying you're on top form, which is quite surprising.
Tony here
really.
says, is this possibly the worst and yet the very best feature on national radio this year? That's Porky Vision.
I think there is something like that.
Yeah.
Jane says there was a clear theme running through Porky Vision, but I can't say what the word is because obviously you've overused it already.
I wasn't going to read out the next one, but I think I will. It says the review of the Halcyon amounts to horizontal and vertical refreshment, which is okay.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
And some nudity.
No, it's not.
Is there a plot in this particular programme?
Yeah.
Well,
look, Mark says, "Hey, Mike, you need to play out with a Sid James laugh after every Porky Vision. Now, it's turning into Sid the Sexist Radio."
Excuse me. I think not.
Yeah.
I'm not Piers Morgan's biggest fan, but you can't help but admire how well he gets his point across when he talks to you boys. That comes from Ryan. Thank you very much indeed.
Exactly right. Now, don't forget, H&J coming up from 1 o'clock here on TalkSport. Over in our sister stations, you can hear John Holmes on Talk Radio and Kate Lawler on Virgin. Don't forget, over on TalkSport 2 from 8 p.m. this evening, we bring you live commentary of the Copa del Rey last 16 first leg clash between Real Madrid and Sevilla. That was an interesting story that old Piers told about Ronaldo, wasn't it?
It was very interesting,
who literally never gives up, even if it's at a game that he doesn't really excel at.
I totally
he
agree.
Always wants to win. I found that when we spoke to Michael Van Gerwen yesterday. We didn't really get a chance to develop that. But, his attitude to winning, the fact that he just was interested only in winning, didn't care about anybody's gamesmanship, didn't care if people were trying to put him off. All he wants to do is win tournaments. And you get that sense with Ronaldo, that all he wants to do is win everything that he's involved in.
The Michael Van Gerwen thing, sorry, excuse me, just a second.
Yeah. Should I call a doctor for you?
No.
3 hours of coughing your guts
No,
up.
no, I haven't actually.
It's quite unpleasant for me.
No, it's been better today. And
you think?
I don't know why you should call it unpleasant. If it's an illness, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be here infecting me with it.
I'm not infecting you with anything. You know that. You've had a cold for a month yourself, so you can't get a cold twice.
I got it from you.
No, you didn't get it from me, because I didn't have a cold a month ago.
Yes, you did.
Anyway, the point of my story is that I was quite surprised at Michael Van Gerwen when I said, you only got 2 World Championships, you wish you had more. He said, yes. But he said, obviously, I'm never going to win as many as Phil. And he meant Phil the Power Taylor.
Well, because he hasn't got enough years to do it.
And I said, why not? And he said, well, because I'm going to retire a lot sooner than Phil ever retired.
Yeah.
And by that, he meant that he's not going to go on for another 16 years. Even if he wins it for, another year after year in the next 14, he won't be able to do it.
Right. Just seeing the video footage of Sir Donald Campbell dying as he was trying to break his own water speed record in the boat Bluebird K7. Incredible footage, that, isn't it?
4th of January 1967.
Yeah.
And
50 years ago today.
50 years ago today. Quite incredible, as you quite rightly say. And I didn't even know, after knowing Mickey for all these years, but of course Mickey took a lot of very, very special photographs. I didn't know he was the man who took that incredible, iconic image of the Bluebird flipping over in the last seconds before Donald Campbell perished.
As I say, a couple of people have said that they have recovered the body a couple of years ago, but not in its entirety, you'd have to say.
I wasn't really sure of that, actually, but that's...
as I said, that won him Photographer of the Year, and in the end it led to his travelling to America to have a great career there, so...
Of course it did.
Fascinating stuff. Now, do you know every day we give away a £100 Wix gift card?
Of course we do.
To the best caller of the day. Do you know who we're giving it to today?
No, I've been
Today's winner is Sanchez, the bus driver.
Thank you very much
an
indeed.
Arsenal fan. The man who couldn't answer one question that we put to him.
That's right, and who had an empty house. And that's why he had
said it was very
sort of
echoey,
yeah.
But he was very entertaining because he kept answering the question before the one we just asked him.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So I don't know if that means there was some kind of delay on the line.
He was quite good.
He was great.
Now, I'll tell you who's made a big impression on the show today.
Who's that?
Young Michelle.
Yes.
To such an extent that I've got a note here from Big Cheese, and he says, I was going to go to Chicago this year to pay a visit to one of the iconic cities in the world. But from now on, for me, it's Humberside.
Yes.
As a result of your interview with Michelle. The Humberside Riviera of my holidays.
Yes, well, how could you possibly know? See, I mean, the amount of publicity that we've given to Hull,
yes,
I think is over and above the call of duty. I think people should be thanking us for actually drawing attention to all of the stuff that Hull has got to offer. Because there's been more stuff on my Twitter feed over the last, I would say, 72 hours.
Yes.
From people in support of Hull, from people against Hull.
Yes.
The thing is, people are talking about Hull.
Yeah.
And they're saying, don't forget to come to the place where the smallest window in the world is.
That's right.
Don't forget to come and see the fishing trail. Don't forget to come and see all the great art galleries.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy for them.
Yeah.
All I said 3 days ago was I just don't think it's a place where you should spend taxpayers' money.
Yeah, well, OK, you've said that. But, I mean, as you quite rightly say, we have put the focus on Hull. That can only be a good thing.
Yeah.
And we will accept the sort of letters of thanks from, the local burghers of Hull, including, of course, our favourite MP up there, as they pour in.
Carl Turner, yeah.
Yeah.
We still haven't heard from him, by the way.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, I wonder if he's said anything. He hasn't said anything yet about the sacking of Mike Phelan either.
No, he hasn't.
He seems more concerned about the closing down of Bradford, the rugby team.
Yes, and in fact, I think they're going into, is it bankruptcy or administration?
They're going into
like
liquidation, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, that's right.
But apparently they're going to rise from that in a new form, possibly in a week's time.
That's absolutely right.
Which is a bit weird. Talking of rugby, actually, did
Yeah.
you see that story about the Wales captain who ate a chicken dinner in a blender?
Yeah, I found that very odd indeed. He put the whole of the chicken dinner into a blender. It must have been a big blender. And then
maybe it was a small chicken dinner.
Yeah, that's right. And then he said he applied water, so he put some, like a cupful of water or something in it. And then he blended it all up. And
I think it's just perfect for you.
And then he said, I drank it, and it didn't taste very nice, which I don't understand. If it's a chicken dinner, it tastes the same when you put it in a blender as it does when it's on a plate.
Sam Warburton we're talking about. He basically said that it's easier to drink things than it is to eat them. And he said he was rushing one time.
Yeah.
And he'd been told by some kind of, sort of nutritionist that if you haven't got time to eat food properly, the best thing to do is to just put it all, munch it all up in a blender and drink it.
I think that's...
Well, you could do that, couldn't you? Because you're a man that you never have enough time to do anything.
No, I think that's a pretty sloppy way to go around, nourishing yourself by turning all your food into a cup of soup.
Yes, but hang on, it's not what you do as a matter of course. It's what you do when you're in a bit of a hurry, but you need to get some protein inside you. You need to make sure. I mean, particularly now, for example, when you're at a low ebb, health-wise, when you've got a cold, you need to, you've heard of the thing, starve a fever, feed a cold, right?
That's right.
You've heard that. So what you have to do is eat a lot of soup.
And that's only 1/3 of my heart work.
Chicken soup in particular. Stay away from alcohol. Right?
Yeah.
So refrain from doing any kind of drinking of any kind.
Yeah, it could be very dangerous,
right?
of course, for me.
And basically sleep a lot, which is all of those things that you don't do.
Absolutely.
Because you'll never get better otherwise, and we'll all just continue to pass germs back and forward.
Yeah, you could well be right. Now, tomorrow, of course, it's a bumper day because it's Postman Pork.
It is Postman Pork.
And we've got
That's
a lot
not the only reason. We've got Steve Lillywhite coming in.
Steve Lillywhite.
Grammy Award-winning producer of U2.
I'll tell you, is
massive Chelsea fan as well.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right.
He's hoping to be talking about Chelsea's 14th victory in a row.
He certainly is. And what I was going to say was that there is some post-festive post, if you see what I mean.
Post-festive post?
Yeah, after Christmas type correspondence.
You mean correspondence that may have come in
which has been flowing in.
Well, I hope you're not going to just be palming off a load of old pre-Christmas stuff.
No. Some presents, though, which were late in arriving. That's what I'm saying, yeah. Okay. And so I'll be unveiling a few of those tomorrow.
The postbag does look as if it's bulging rather a lot.
Bulging.
Fantastic.
And, I'm absolutely delighted because, of course, my main mission in life is to communicate, is to build bridges with the millions of people who listen to TalkSport every day. And I see that, as something which inherently is my life's mission.
Right. I'm going to leave you with this. Porky's hero Allardyce will be shown up for being clueless. MG is spot on, says Neil. Porky miles short as usual. # snob. Well, we'll discuss all of that and
I think
more,
not.
I'm sure.